Yes, we're here. We're late. We're getting ready. Getting really ready. Getting ready for the True Crime Metrix show. This is going to be the best show. Yeah. Okay. We are here. Hello, everybody in the chat. Riding Shotgun, how you doing? Veronica Sawyer 77, good to see you too. What are we doing tonight, folks? We're going to be having a look at the testimony, the direct testimony of Jason Mengel. Who is Jason Mengel? Well, he's the former boyfriend of Ezra McCandless, the woman at the center of this case. Have we got a picture? Let's get a picture. Good old Jason Mengel. He's got a big heart. It's even bigger than his brain. I mean, his big heart got him in a lot of trouble. Made him blind to the basic amateur manipulation of this stupid, narcissistic. What is the word? I say Ezra McCandless is 100 times worse than Jodi Arias. She does it all in this pathetic kid way. We're going to have to go through her interrogations soon. I've been watching them today. I've been catching up, getting the backstory, watching Detective Ryan Prock, at the beginning. She's a victim. They can't find Alex, and they're looking for him to arrest him for attacking Ezra. Of course, later it was found that all Ezra's wounds were superficial, self-inflicted. Do people really need a background to this case? What's going on? Where is our video? Yeah, where is our video? It's right here. Don't worry, friends. It's on the way. Oh, merch. We launched the new merch today, folks. Tomorrow it's going to be Metrix logo merch, but today we've got, what have we got? We've got Judge Everett. Good old Judge Everett. It's been therapy for me after the Adelson depression. 2 weeks laid up, wanting to take my own life. We're back. We're starting with Judge Everett merch. I slept like a baby. A giant baby. A huge giant baby. Okay, let's share that merch. We'll go over to the merch store first, guys, because I know a couple of people have been requesting the Judge Everett merch. Which is a good one. What colors do people like? Look at all that merch. Well, how about blue? Blue's great. Blue's great. People like blue. Oh, I don't know. Maybe I prefer it in white. We've got long sleeve. We've got Judge Everett pillows now, folks. Judge Everett pillows. How cool is that? We've even got Judge Everett cell phone cases, mugs, camping mugs, hoodies, long sleeve shirts, t-shirts, woman shirts, classic tees, luxury tees, colors and all shapes and sizes ready to fit your world. Judge Everett merch, as seen for the first time on the True Crime Metrix platform. We've got a blanket. I want to send a blanket, a huge blanket to Judge Everett with his face on it. Yeah. So enjoy that, folks. Head over to the merch store. It's just merch.truecrimemetrics.com, and there we've got all of our fantastic merch. And tomorrow, I know we've had a lot of requests for the what have we had requests for? The what was it? The Metrix logo merch, and that'll be coming out tomorrow, folks. We're going to get right on that. We're going to get so on that tomorrow. But for now, tonight, we're heading back over to StreamYard to share a new tab. This one. So they were only together for 6 months or less, really. In that time, I think they met in the summer of 2017. and she killed Alex Woodworth in March 2018, right? So within that time period, it was the Eau Claire festival. Soon after that, of course, Ezra was immediately offered to live with Jason and not pay any rent, under the guise that she needed help getting back into art college, you know, to do her t-shirt screen printing. Of course, she didn't pay any rent or contribute to any bills. There was also an abortion. Ezra fell pregnant, took a pregnancy test when it got checked out, and had to have it aborted. They drove all the way to Minnesota for that. I'm just trying to close a few things up here, guys. Delete that. Doesn't matter. Yeah, there was an abortion, and then after the abortion, Jason was emotionally distant. He wanted to sleep on the couch, and then he was called away. He was called away to military duty. He was working for who was it now? The National Guard. So he'd go all across the country down to these big events where he would march on a parade with the National Guard, and if anyone fell over and scraped their knee, he'd be right there with a medic pack, you know. So while he was away on one of those things, Ezra slept with the guy that Jason had asked to look out for her. Because Jason's quite a bit older. He was 33 when they met. Ezra was 19. So that's quite a stretch, right? What else can we say? Yeah, so she slept with him twice, then sent him a load of texts saying, you know, we can read them out if you want, but we'll get to it. I think Jason is asked to read out the texts that Ezra sent to the guy she was cheating on him with in court. That's pretty brutal, huh? Maybe we should just play the video and let Jason do the talking. But in this testimony, guys, Jason just seems like he does not understand why he's there. It's quite funny. It's quite like he doesn't even know. He has a real hard time getting used to the format of court. You know, he forgets things. He multiple times he doesn't know his own age. The prosecutor asks him, he says, "How old are you?" And he goes, "Well, I'm 30. Well, I was born on April 6, 1984. Let's leave it at that." And the prosecutor goes, "So you're 36? And Jason's like, "You're doing the math." Why have you got to be difficult about that? And it comes back even in the cross-examination by Ezra's attorneys. It's like, again, he just doesn't know his age. It's really bizarre the way he answers questions. We'll get to it. Let's play that video. Oh yeah, but get this. You see, Ezra right now is always wearing this very pink jacket, these floral undershirts. But you see these big green woolen cuffs here? And this big green sweater? She's kind of padded out a bit today, right? She's wearing Jason's sweater, right? Because when she was in the trauma center after the attack, or actually when she murdered Alex and cut herself superficially, just scratched the knife on her skin a bit, you know, she kept asking for Jason Mengel. "Jason Mengel, please, he's a medic in the army. I need him. Get Jason Mengel. He loves me." Of course, she's hoping that he can back up her story. And at that time, Jason visited her in the trauma center and gave her this green sweater at a time when she was, because Jason clearly has a bit of a hero complex. You know, he's the savior. He's the hero. He's going to put his needs aside and help the less fortunate, who is Ezra. So he came to her in a time of need, gave her this sweater, and she is now wearing it to remind him of that time, to remind him, hey, Jason, You're the savior. Well, I'm facing murder charges here, so you better do some good work and save me on this occasion, please. It's a classic. It's a classic. So she's really making him working hard to make him notice. She's cleaning her glasses using the sweater. Better use the sweater. And when he doesn't bite, she just takes off the pink jacket and says, look, here it is. Can you see? Tune in to how you felt when you were a hero. Anyway, enough talking. Let's play the video.
It's Jason Lee Mengel.
Yes, Roger.
Where do you work?
It's Jason Lee Mengel. Yes, Roger. Jason Lee Mengel, Roger. The third.
At the moment, I was working for FedEx, but I'm going on a deployment to the Ukraine, so
you're not currently taking a leave?
Just a reminder, this trial is from 2019, I believe. Yeah. Or so it's pre all Ukraine.
The month off.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you said you're going on a deployment to Ukraine. What's your military status?
I'm on Title 10 right now, I believe.
Are you a medic in the military?
Roger, yeah.
And just because I don't use Roger in my normal course of work, that's a yes, correct?
Yes.
Thank you.
Just because I don't use Roger in my normal course of work, that's a yes, right? Yes, Roger. He's another one of these military guys. We've seen it before in Chandler Halderson case, right? With Andrew Smith spelling his own name with the phonetic alphabet. Alpha, November, Delta, Romeo, Echo, Whiskey. Sierra, Mike, India, Tango, Hotel.
How long have you been in the military as a medic?
It's going on like 10, 12 years-ish.
Does that require some travel, both in the United States as well as outside of the country?
Just travel. It's mostly like stateside lately, relief efforts and things like that.
And how old are you?
I am.
Hello, Ana Patricia Sanchez Benavides. Nice to see you all the way from Mexico. You see, now we're in all 50 states, guys. We're from Maine to Miami. We're from San Diego to Seattle, across regions of Mexico and parts of Canada. The good parts. The people parts.
35? April 6, 84. We'll say that.
April 6, 84. And what city or municipality are you initially from?
Initially from?
Yes.
I guess you could say initially we could do Medford, Wisconsin?
Medford,
the Taylor
Wisconsin.
County area.
And just generally, what city do you live in currently?
Yeah, generally people know where they're from. Where am I originally from? Well, give me a second here. I guess you could say Mitford.
Currently, Eau Claire County.
And
hang on. See, it's really funny. I'm sorry to interrupt so much, guys, but this guy, I want everyone to get used to the way that this guy answers questions. The attorney says, "What city are you from?" And he says, "Currently, Eau Claire County."
And just generally, what city do you live in currently?
Currently, Eau Claire County.
And in the time period from the summer of 2017 through March of 2018, were you living in the city of Eau Claire?
In what time frame?
September 2017 through March 2018?
Yes.
Are you familiar with a place, Racy's Coffee Shop?
Yes.
Is that a place that you have frequented as a customer?
Oh, yeah, I quite frequently.
Okay. Is that a place that you frequented as a customer from that same time period, summer 2017 to March 2018?
Yeah, about pretty much every day.
And if you could describe for the jury a little bit about the clientele at Racy's, and I'll ask you some specific questions. Is it Is it more of an artsy place or is it more of a sports bar? What's the typical clientele?
It's kind of like an intersection of like all people. So we have, veterans, we have motorcycle guys, we have liberals, we have Democrats, Republicans, like everybody. It's kind of like a melting pot where.
What is he saying? It's an intersection of all people. We have liberals and motorcycle guys. We had a lion tamer in the other day. 18th century Caribbean pirates. They come in from Friday and Tuesday nights. It's 18th century Caribbean pirate night.
Everyone just goes and sits on the benches and they have conversations in open forum. And it's a very understanding place where people are free thinkers and there's no recourse like for your thought.
Is it by the name Racy's Coffee Shop? Is coffee the main product sold there?
I mean, yeah, they have coffee, but there's also the nucleus, which serves food. But
so is that connected?
Yeah, not like an Amsterdam coffee shop then, where you can rarely buy coffee.
They're connected inside, yeah.
Would it be common or uncommon for me to walk into Racy's and see somebody with a philosophy book or a journal?
No. Students go there a lot to study, so
that would be common?
Yeah, very common.
Is it a place that you would go to just grab a cup of coffee and head out, like maybe at Starbucks, or is it a place you'd go and, like you said, sit on the bench?
It's a place for procrastination, I think. A lot of people go there with intentions of like studying but it's like a unified procrastination. It's kind of like, it makes it okay. So we can indulge in our vices. Like people go there to smoke and they really shouldn't be just, because it's communal. So like you all,
Is it a lot of the same regular customers and regular employees when you go there?
I mean, there's like monthly people that come like once or twice a month, but there's definitely daily. Like they call themselves, or we call like Racy's rats, pretty much. Just like
the Racy's rats.
Pretty much, just like.
Well, that's cute. Is it loud enough? I forgot to turn the volume up, guys.
Hanging out at the coffee shop.
And you said smoke cigarettes. Does that happen out on the bench?
Yeah, the benches are kind of like, that's for people like wax poetic and stuff like that. And
what?
The what?
What did I hear you said?
For which part?
You said that
Which part? The weird part. The weird term that's not that common. Wax poetic. Yeah, the benches. That's where people go and wax poetic. Court reporter's like, what the fuck? What is that?
benches that's for people, and I don't know.
It's like wax poetic, like just like people will go on rants about Trump, or they'll go on rants about anything, just about anything. Like I talk a lot about bikes out there because I'm very pro biking.
I talk about what?
Bicycling. I talk a lot about bicycling out there because I'm very pro. I don't know. I'm an enthusiast for cycling.
So it's a place where if you're going to have a...
You see what I mean? It's like he's not really got the idea yet that, and I don't think he ever does, that he's here to answer questions of probative value to discern the guilt or innocence of his ex-partner. And he's like, yeah, I go out on the benches and I love bikes. So I talk about bicycling because I'm a bike enthusiast, and we wax poetic about bikes and Trump and, sometimes with motorcycle guys, sometimes with lion tamers, and on Tuesdays and Friday nights, 18th century Caribbean pirates.
Smoke, you step outside, sit on the bench and have a conversation.
Yeah, and everyone gives each other their fair, order for the conversation.
Would you describe, speaking more of the regulars, the dailies, is it a close-knit group of people, or are there cliques?
Sorry. Yeah, exceptionally close. Like there's been a lot.
Close and incestuous. I mean, it's amazing how often those two lines intertwine.
In people's lives at that place that people have experienced through each other. So, losses of friends, family members, people that move away, marriages, things like that. Like Yeah, it's
What did he just say? Check this out.
you know, there's been a lot in people's lives at that place that people have experienced through each other. So, losses of friends, family members, people that move away, marriage.
Losses of friends. Just a reminder, guys, Alex Woodworth, the victim in this case, the only victim in this case, is a lost friend and a dedicated Racy Delane's patron, sorry. Yeah, poor choice of words. Yeah, a lot has happened, people have lost friends, people have lost philosophy professors.
Bridges, things like that. Like, yeah, it's always sad to see someone go somewhere else, like someone move to Portland or someone move,
Is it like the coffee cheers kind of place?
You could equivalent it to that. Yeah.
I don't know if there's slam poetry, Kerry B, but I would bet my bottom dollar that there is spoken word evenings.
Now, did you know Alexander Woodworth?
Yeah, he was a nighttime barista mostly. Sometimes daytime shifts, but
So you would see him at Racy's?
yeah, I would get off work pretty late. So a lot of times if I was coming back into town, he would be running the night shift. So,
And John Hansen, was he somebody that you would see at Racy's as well during that time period?
yeah, we were very close.
Now, Ezra McCandless, are you familiar with her?
Yes.
Is the person you know as Ezra McCandless?
Yeah, they were very close. They shared everything.
In the courtroom today?
Yes.
Can you identify where she's located by just describing a general area and then an item of clothing, please?
Pink blazer to my left.
At the table to my
Wrong. You should have said, she's there in my green sweater and I want it back. If she gets convicted, can I have my sweater back? I've been looking for that for a year.
First table.
Am I right?
Yep.
I'd ask the record reflect identification of the defendant by this witness.
The record will reflect that the witness has identified Ms. McCandless.
Now, was the defendant part of the Racy's crowd?
Yeah, like I met her there, and she was sort of inducted into it through, like, she was away from her family, so it was kind of like
Inducted into it? What do you mean? She came in and ordered a coffee. I mean, we inducted her in. It's a 3-month process. There's a 2-week training period, basic training. Then we move on to
like a close-knit family. So I think she just needed a strong center for a little while.
And what was your, speaking of the summer 2017,
Hey, thanks so much, C. Malone, for the super chat. You are so super. Exeter and Chelsea. To be beautiful woman. To be beautiful women. Okay. I don't know what that means. But thank you for your comment, C. Malone. But remember, guys, the very best way to support the channel this month, to support the Metrix channel this month, is on buymeacoffee.com/True Crime Metrix, where you can buy me a coffee. You can buy soap a coffee, but please, just a small coffee for soap. Decaf, okay? But yeah, that is the very best way to support the channel this month. Next month, we can come back to YouTube donations. I know how you all love that with the super stickers, the super chat. It's so great. But also what is great this month is buymeacoffee.com/True Crime Metrix. That is the best place this month, the month of October.
into early 2018, what was your relationship with the defendant?
I can't recall exactly when we started.
Were you dating during that general time period?
It was like right after Eau Claire's festival. Kind of, I ran into her there.
In 2017?
I believe so.
And I'm not familiar with the Eau Claire's festival. Was that during the summer?
Yeah, I think it was during maybe August, July, somewhere around there.
And when does it sound accurate that early February 2018 would have been the end of your relationship with the defendant?
Yeah, right, Harley D. Harley D says, damn, did this guy's girlfriend kill another dude to be with this guy? Maybe that's what she's thinking. She's going, shit. What have I done? He's a moron.
Sounds good. I mean, I wrote out a timeline at one point when I've repressed a lot of this stuff. So the times are like not very kosher with me anymore.
That sounds generally accurate, though.
It sounds generally accurate.
Now, is there an age difference between you and the defendant?
Yes. I did not know as large when I started, but.
Is there an age difference? No, we were born at exactly the same moment. On the same day, same year, same minute.
And when you say you didn't know it was that large when you started, did you think she was older than she actually is?
I thought she was older, and there were like strange, like, you know, I noticed on a random, like I noticed a tassel, like a high school tassel from like your hat hanging in the car the first time we had met. And then I was going to look and see what year that said.
I thought soy milk was illegal in Wisconsin.
And it was gone like the next time I met her. So I was like, But like, yeah, like she I think it was like she never mentioned her age, but like I had heard.
You hear this, what he's saying? He's saying, I didn't know how old she was. When I first got in her car, I saw that there was a high school tassel on her head rest. And I thought to myself, the next time I get in, I'll check that to see if there's a year on it, and then I'll know when she graduated. But it was gone. So I was doomed to never know her age. Why don't you just ask her how old she is? I mean, I've seen pictures of her when she met. She looks exactly 19 years old. There's no, could you believe she was so young? No, she could have been 30. She looks exactly 19 years old. It's going on about this high school tassel, like, oh, it was missing. It was so mysterious. And then I just never thought to ask.
Like her life stories. So like I was assuming at that age.
And if you're 35-ish now,
Yeah.
Would she be about 13 to 15 years younger?
Yeah, something like that. Okay.
Now, what city or municipality is the defendant from, if she ever told you?
I think she resided, well, she was in Stanley, I believe, living with her mother and father, but she was supposed to be, I'm not sure if she was residing in Marionette. I'm not sure how to pronounce.
But originally her family's from
The Stanley area. Yeah, I think she was going to college up there, but she was back.
And looking at the time period when you first met, so after the Eau Claire days in 2017, can you describe, or where did you first meet the defendant?
Where did I first meet her?
Yes.
I got a flat coming into town after work, right by Just Local.
Thank you so much, Amanda, for the coffees on buymeacoffee.com/true crime metrics. Thank you so much, Amanda. That is really appreciated.
Foods. So I walked my bike back to Racy's. Alex Woodworth was there. He was working the night shift and pounded on the door because he would lock up. But a lot of times if like you made an effort, he would just give you, I mean, they toss most of the coffee out. So he opened the door, said we're closed, gave me a coffee in a to-go cup.
They toss most of the coffee out. Well, that's why. You don't have to throw coffee away. It doesn't go bad. I mean, it might do in several years. It's not a very good business model, is it? They toss most of the coffee out.
And then
And where did you go once he gave you the coffee?
I sat down on the bench and kind of let out a huff, like a sigh, and she popped up. She was laying down on.
Yeah, I sat down on the bench. I let out a huff, and she popped up. So bench, huff, popped up.
Like I was on like the furthest to the left bench. She was on like the right bench, laying down.
It's just the way he says things. And, you know, truth be told, guys, I actually do feel pretty sorry for this guy. You know, he's been just eaten up by this crazy bitch. You know, but, you know, he just comes across like, what is going on here? Why haven't you got any social skills?
when you say she, you're talking about the defendant?
Yes.
Was she using the Wi-Fi there, if you know?
Yeah, she was using the Wi-Fi.
And what do you know about, did the defendant have a cell phone that had service, or did she need to be connected to Wi-Fi?
She didn't have service on her phone, and those I am saying she, but at that moment when I met Ezra, I did not know whether she was binary, non-binary, male, female, but I recognized a female, and I think we actually maybe had a conversation.
Well, there was your answer then. It's like, excuse me, miss or sir, please, could you inform me how I should address you? I recognize a female, but I need to confirm.
Conversation about it at that time, but
Okay, so
I don't know if there's a way that they would like me to refer to pronouns.
we'll refer to Mr. McCandless as the defendant. And,
Okay, that works.
And that's how I'll refer to her. So you grabbed a coffee from Alex. Alex shut the door. You sat down, and the defendant popped up off a different bench. Is that right?
Yes.
And did you start talking?
Yeah, we talked. I'm not entirely sure what we talked about, but we talked for quite a while.
So you drank some coffee, smoked some cigarettes, I assume?
I mean, I was drinking coffee. I don't think she had any with her, but
Okay.
smoked smokes. And I think she didn't actually smoke back then, but she might have bummed one.
And then you just kind of hung out. Was it into the early morning, or do you not remember?
The sun wasn't coming up yet, but I eventually went home, and I didn't think we were going to ever see, we talked a little bit about art and stuff. So she had followed me on Instagram, or we had exchanged Instagram information. And I thought that was kind of it, because under my impression, she was just there for the Eau Claire festival. And I didn't expect to see her again.
And when was it in relation to that first meeting that you started dating the defendant?
I would say within 2 weeks, maybe. I'm not.
That's an approximation.
I have a date written down at some point, but I think it was in July at some point when we actually made it we're going to be dating. July 6th kind of makes sense to me for some reason.
And that would be 2017.
Roger. Or yes. Yeah.
And did the defendant eventually move in with you?
She moved in.
Approximately how long after you started dating did she move in?
Relatively
Sorry about the banging. I'm trying to chase this mosquito.
quickly. I mean, I asked my roommate if it would be okay. Things weren't so good on her home front. It seemed like she was having trouble getting back into school. And I was like, well, if you want to work, want to pick up a job, work here, split went through ways, that works for me,
Do you think it was a couple weeks, a month, approximately after you first started dating?
It was fairly soon. I mean, Alex seemed my roommate, Alex Zink, seemed very surprised that it happened so fast, but we all seemed to like her, and she seemed to be part of the group. So,
And that brings me, so there's Alexander Woodworth, and then there's Alex Zink, right?
yes, my roommate at the time was Alexander Zink,
And
Alexander Woodworth.
Two different people.
Two different people.
Little bit of backstory here, guys. You see, Ezra was living with her mom and then her dad, and they were both saying to her, listen, you can live here rent free and eat what's in the refrigerator, but you've got to get a job. We can't give you money on top. And by the way, getting a job will be good for you. It teaches you about accountability, and, it'll progress you in life. And she said, oh, no, it's a waste of time. Oh, that place, they wouldn't accept me because of my gender problems. So she made them the villain and said, well, I'm going to go and sleep in my car. No. You won't let me live the way I want to live. And then she just finds this Racy Delane's place, and it's like, okay, a community that I can force people to accept me. And then she finds the softest dope in town, Jason Mengel, and just instantly convinces him, yes, you have an apartment, don't you? You have an apartment, don't you? What about, because I need support, because my parents are evil and they want me to get a job. So you have an apartment. We could be in a relationship and I could live with you. And about the rent and bills, well, obviously, I can't pay any rent now because even if I'm working, I wouldn't be able to afford to live in Eau Claire. And he's just like, okay, well, yeah, just contribute what you can, help out with food and bills. And, me and Alex Zink, this is a different Alex now. Alex Woodworth is the dead guy, and Alex Zink is Jason's roommate, flatmate, apartment mate, whatever. So yeah, Ezra's just really good at like, I've got this problem and we can solve it together because we've got an ancient love and a connection, right? And you don't want to miss out on that connection. So I'll live here and occasionally help out with bills if I can, which I never will. She never did, not once. I think she bought some cereal that she wanted to eat. Yeah. Sounds good on paper, doesn't it?
People. Yes.
Alex Zink is the last name Zink?
Yes.
Okay. And did he, or during that time period, did he have a girlfriend who also lived there?
Jenna, I don't think was living there at the time. Jenna was still, I believe, living with Elon and Dieter McCallum, I believe. Elon and Dieter McCallum, I believe.
And Jenna is that Jenna Van de Zand?
Van de Zand, yeah.
If she wasn't living there, did she eventually move in?
She eventually moved in, yes.
That's Jenna?
Yep.
Okay. So for a time, it sounds like it was for sure you, Alex.
Van de Zand. What a name, huh? It sounds like a band. It sounds like a band that could open for Lynyrd Skynyrd. Yeah. First, we'll see Van de Zand, and then we'll have Lynyrd Skynyrd.
Alex and the defendant, and then Jenna at some point
I
moved
think we
in.
were all four residing there at one time. I believe so.
Were there certain arrangements made for rent?
It was like a verbal contract, and
Yeah, it was with a certain verbal contract. She made a promise, and we believed her. Yeah, it was a verbal contract.
and I mean, it's not like I don't know how you would put it. It was more of a verbal, like me and Alex had the rent, and then the idea was that she would find an occupation of some sort. I think she started working at Joanne Fabrics and just like kick in what she could. But we were all trying to help her get back into school or do something with her art because she was really involved in the art community. And
yeah, of course, it's a Dutch name, Harley. And a little interesting fact, Mengel is a Indian name, as in from Indian descent, the country. And I can see it in this guy, right? You can see it. Just a few, you can see other things as well, but you can definitely see some Indian descent there. And then also, Ezra's attorney is called Mrs. Vishni, which is another Indian descent name. So I know Wisconsin's got a shitload of Germans and Dutch and probably Swedish and Norwegian, that's where all those guys went, right? But I didn't know that there was an influx of Indian descent. There's two of them in this case, so there must be a demographic.
I mean, it's not like we were going to like put her on the street.
So there was a loose understanding the defendant would kick in, whether it was utilities or.
Yeah, that's right, Veronica Sawyer, the gym teacher. Lynyrd Skynyrd wanted to have long hair, and the school rules were you can't have hair that touches the collar of your shirt. So they all put Vaseline in their hair. I mean, instead of hair gel or Brill cream, I guess, and just like combed it up, right? But the gym teacher would come in to the showers and say, aha, your hair is all wet and it's lower than your collar. That you haven't, they should have said, well, we're not wearing a collar. We're in the fucking shower. Now get out of here, you pedo. Yeah, Lynyrd Skynyrd was his name.
Or rent.
Yeah.
Did she ever kick in for those?
I think she did at one point for a little bit, but I think times were kind of tough and she had to take part of it back.
You said she worked at Joanne Fabrics. Do you know, was that a full-time job or less than full-time?
I don't know if she was full. It was quite a few hours because it was during the seasonal time. So I'm not sure if she was hired on as seasonal help or if she was hired on as part-time, but was working like full-time hours. But she was gone pretty often for like, I'd say about a month or so. I mean, she was like very optimistic like during that period.
Hello, Kate loves you 88. Great year, great year, great year. Yeah, from Tallahassee, Lassie. Good to see you on a live, Kate. Glad to have you here.
Did you get a feel, or did she ever tell you if she had lots of money or if she was struggling?
I kind of knew she was not doing the greatest, but like she was always fairly charitable. Like around the holiday season, she spent a lot more on us than I thought she probably should have, which, I mean, was appreciated because it is the holidays, but at the same time, I was hoping she would look out for herself.
Did the defendant have a car?
She had a silver Impala.
In that silver Impala, did it have some drawings on it?
Yeah, she painted it. The top had a bird. I think it's a shrike on a bike.
So I want to focus on the time period of when the defendant moved in with you and
Hey, that's really interesting, Kate. I've just seen your comment there. Yeah, come over to the Discord. Come over to the Discord, and there's a link in the description. Everybody in the chat actually should come over to the Discord, but especially Kate from Tallahassee, and we can DM on there, or there's a community page. It's free. There's just a link in the description. You click the link, and you are into the True Crime Metrix Discord. It'd be great to have you there, Kate.
Alex, and then Jenna was there as well. Was your relationship roommates, or, and I'm specifically talking about you and the defendant, was it roommates or were you intimate? What was the general nature of the relationship?
It was intimate.
Okay. Were you exclusive, at least as far as
Yes.
you knew?
Yeah, I was exclusive.
So you weren't seeing anyone else?
No.
Did you think she was seeing anyone else?
What time period are we talking about?
Let's say up until, from the time she moved in until the end of 2017.
I'd say pretty confident
Okay. Confident that she wasn't seeing anyone?
that she wasn't seeing anyone. Yes.
Did you see each other daily?
Yeah, I mean, we live together in passing sometimes.
I agree, Leslie. The witness chair should go. It makes him seem, I don't know if it's the way he's moving or the creaking it's making, the squeaking, but it reminds me of like those mechanical Christmas elves you see at the mall or something that are just, going back and forth with a hammer or something. The way they move, just back and forth, the same thing all fucking day. It's just Jason Mengel on the witness stand.
Usually at the coffee shop, usually, at home, depending on what day it was. I mean, I was working weird hours, but.
How would you communicate if you weren't just crossing paths or at the house together? Would you call, text, Instagram?
Yeah, I don't know if she had a texting app at that point. She had used a Text Now app or something at one point, but it was mostly just Facebook Messenger and Instagram for the most part.
Without getting into your personal finances or anything like that, did you provide certain things for the defendant, meaning food, money for gas, anything like that?
Judge, I'm going to object. I think
Not only did he provide money for gas and things like that, but like Jason had his own car, right? But he was a real bicycle guy, as he's already shared with us, right? So he liked to bike everywhere. I mean, really an enthusiast, just believed in biking, and he had a car, but he kept it basically as a storage locker. It just stayed at his property and he put stuff in it. But Ezra had her own car, but she would complain that she was having anxiety or feeling sad and ask Jason if he could drive. But that was only so it would be safe, right? But she did it for the entire relationship. Oh, will you drive? Would you mind to drive because it's not safe? I'm having an attack. Yeah, another attack. Better take the keys, Jason. Yeah, we're running all my errands, but if you could just take the keys until my attack has subsided.
This is really getting far afield. Their financial affairs. I don't think money is an issue in this case.
I'm gonna overrule. You may answer. Go ahead.
I mean, we provided, so like, I would say that it was becoming a little financially straining because me and Alex, I didn't want it to ruin.
Yeah, it was, wasn't it? It was becoming a little financially straining. Every month he'd be looking at his statements going, holy shit, we're running out of money. We're running really fast out of money. We're going through the money this month. Can we just maybe if we have a few less mochachinos and $4.50 blueberry muffins at Racy's where we sit all fucking day? What's the bill at the end of the day? Okay, we've had 12 muffins, 45 mochachinos.
In our friendship financially, because he felt like she, like, with the situation.
Object to him testifying as to what his roommate Alex
Sustained.
felt.
What?
I'll ask a follow-up question to clarify. Were you paying rent and not getting contributions from?
No, okay. Discord is totally free. It's just open. Everyone wants to join. Come onto Discord. It's good. There's always something going on. We talk about Dan Markel. We talk about the Adelson case in general. We talk about all cases, or just nothing to do with crime sometimes. There's a general, what do we call it? Chat room, is it? General tab, whatever it is. Yeah, there's sections in there. And just click the link and that's it. You're in. But I want you to know local knowledge about Tallahassee and personal knowledge of the drug. Yeah, I'd love to know local knowledge about Tallahassee. No, seriously, Kate, I'll speak to you later. Definitely on Discord.
From the defendant.
Yes, I was paying rent but not getting contributions.
Okay. Were you emotionally invested in each other?
Yes, very much.
Did you say I love you back and forth?
Often.
Did you have a certain tagline for Instagram messages or
A tagline, like a thing that we would say often.
when you'd say goodbye? Was there anything specific you'd say?
Yes.
So you are loved and you are valued.
Yes. Yep. Sorry.
And would that go back and forth between?
Very
You would
often.
say it to her, she'd say it to you.
Yes.
Did you ever meet the defendant's family?
Oh, yeah. I met them on a very auspicious occasion, but yes.
Did that include?
What was the tagline that they say back and forth to each other all the time? You are special, you are valued, or you are, what was it? I need to hear it again. That just reeks of unhealthy codependency, doesn't it? If you need to say that all the fucking time, you need to not be with any relationship. It's just enabling your emotionally stunted lifestyle. Go away, spend some time with yourself. Go to the redwoods. He loves to go to the redwoods and cycle, of course.
Her mother, her father, grandparents?
Yes, she had a very large family. I only realized that once I started meeting them all that there was, a lot of personalities in the house.
And did she introduce you to them?
I met them. I met her mother initially at the clinic after her car accident.
Yeah. Leslie's husband says to her, you are loved, you are valued. And she punches him in the nose.
And then I kind of, through that, met everybody else. I didn't know how to meet them, with the age gap. I didn't know if it would be awkward or weird, so I wasn't opposed to it, but it kind of came at a
He was 14 or 15 years older than her, Vivian P. But you know, Ezra's mother had her when she was 14 years old, or maybe she got pregnant when she was 14 and gave birth when she was 15. But very, very young mother, right? And Ezra's birth father was never in her life. Didn't want anything to do. They all told her, "Yes, yes, he's a traveling artist. Yes, he's down in Florida now." Not true. He's been in the same town all the time. He's a heroin, you know, he's a drug guy, drug, crack, smack, crank, whatever it is, right? He's got track marks. He comes to court at some point, and it's like, oh, I thought you were a traveling artist in Miami. Not true. But what's his name? Joe Shane. Joe Shane is Ezra's adopted father that married her mother, also young. So when Jason meets the parents of Ezra, he's the same age as her dad. Right? Kind of awkward, huh? Kind of awkward.
strange time, and she seemed to trust me quite a bit because she stayed at the hospital, finished up stuff, and then I drove Ezra back to their place.
Was it a relationship where you would go to family functions, whether it was a holiday or a
Yeah,
picnic?
from time to time. I wasn't always privy to that kind of stuff because I'm not much of a holiday person, but she would ask me, and I was always welcomed, you know, whether it was Christmas, Thanksgiving, you know, anything.
Were you close enough that you had at least some of her family members' phone numbers in your phone?
Yes, I had a few of them.
What were some of the, and we'll just briefly touch on this, what were some of the things that you and the defendant would do in your free time? You mentioned biking. Is that something that you
Yeah,
shared?
I bike a lot.
Did you and the defendant bike together?
Oh yeah, yeah, I built her up a bike.
Did you go hiking, get coffee, things like that?
Go hiking, get coffee. Photo walks once in a while. I wasn't really into photography, but she was very into photography.
And I assume, were there some ups and downs in your relationship?
There always is, yeah.
But there were times when you certainly were happy.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Your Honor, if I may approach?
You may.
What's the number gonna be?
I'm going to show you what's marked as Exhibit 684.
Right.
Do you recognize the people in these photographs?
Yeah, that's me.
Is that you and the defendant?
Yes, me. That's
Okay,
right.
and that is that a series of.
I'm just seeing if we can find our own copy of this picture. Is there a copy of this picture so we can have a proper look? A proper look. Well, there's one. Oh, here you go. Yeah, let's have a proper look. I mean, there's a lot of sexually explicit messages that are read out in this trial, and Jason's going to introduce us to a few of them that are pretty cringe, right? But also this. Hang on. Share this tab. Okay. I mean, he's certainly behaving like a 15-year-old. Which one's your favorite? I guess it's got to be the top center. Look at this. What is that? Bunch of posers. This is what's so great about Racy Delanes. Yeah, we sit in there all day in our plaid shirts and funky sunglasses. Well, not sunglasses, but our hipster gear, and we take selfies on retro couches. Can I get another mocha? Okay, it's enough of that. Oh, has the mute gone off? Has the volume, the sound gone off? Sometimes that happens. We need to, what do we need to do? We need to remove and share again. Share again.
I would move exhibit 684 in evidence and ask for permission to publish briefly.
Any objection?
No.
All right, exhibit 284 will be received.
684.
684. If I said 284, I apologize.
684?
Now, Mr. Mengel, those are obviously photographs of one of the happy times, right?
Yeah, just on the couch goofing around.
Okay. During your relationship with the defendant, was there ever talk about a future between the two of you?
Yeah, we meshed very well. Like, I thought that there was probably some type of future, and like it was, initially it was very good.
Was there ever talk about?
There's definitely a type of future, Jason. You're in it. You're sitting in her murder trial. Yeah, there is a future, and it's here now.
About potential marriage at some point?
I think we joked about it quite a bit. Like, it was kind of like a running trend. I don't think we took it super, super seriously, but we had, I would like call her my wife once in a while just for fun. She'd call me her husband.
In a
Thanks so much for the coffee, C. Malone. Superstar you are, my son.
flirtatious kind of way?
Yeah.
Did you ever talk about having children together?
No.
At some point early on in your relationship, did the defendant get pregnant?
Yes.
And that was
Hello, Monica. What's on the stove tonight?
pregnant by you?
I do not know, like, who's.
As far as you know,
I
there's
was
no
just,
reason.
I mean, yeah, at the time I was like assuming that.
You were in a sexual relationship with her in that time period, correct?
Yes.
And as far as you know, it was at that point it was a.
As far as I know, it was exclusive at that point.
Okay.
Yes.
And was that in the September-October time period in 2017?
I believe so. I think it was right before her birthday,
When is her birthday, if you remember?
October 6th.
Okay.
I believe.
And it would have been 2017 because that's the time period that you were dating, right?
I think we missed something there, guys. We have to go back a few minutes. So they're talking about the pregnancy, and the attorney asks, were you the father? And he's like, I don't know. And Ezra's super upset about that.
Photographs taken during your relationship?
Yes.
Okay. I would move exhibit 684 in evidence and ask for permission to publish briefly.
Any objection?
No.
All right, exhibit 284 will be received.
684.
684. If I said 284, I apologize.
684?
Now, Mr. Mengel, those are obviously photographs.
Bearing in mind, she never sheds one single tear for the man she killed, right? But looking at stupid sunglass, stupid retro couch selfies brings a tear to her eye.
Photographs of one of the happy times, right?
Yeah, just on the couch goofing around.
Okay. During your relationship with the defendant, was there ever talk about a future between the two of you?
Yeah, we meshed very well. Like, I think we joked about it. We're super seriously, but we had.
In a flirtation. Did you ever talk about having children together?
No.
At some point early on in your relationship, did the defendant get pregnant?
Yes.
And that was
It's with an E. It's with an E. This Mengel is with an E, I think. Or did I get that wrong? I looked it up. I double checked.
pregnant by you.
I do not know, like, who's.
As far as you know, there's
I was
no
just.
reason.
I mean, yeah, at the time I was like assuming that.
She's glaring at him. She's angry as well as upset. But you're facing a life sentence for a brutal, vicious, super violent homicide. You might have more on your mind, Ezra.
You were in a sexual relationship with her in that time period, correct?
Yes.
And as far as you know, it was at that point it was
As far as I know, it was exclusive at that point.
Okay.
Yes.
And was that in the September-October time period in 2017?
I believe so. I think it was right before her birthday,
When is her birthday, if you remember?
October 6th.
Okay.
I believe.
And it would have been 2017 because that's the time period that you were dating, right?
Yes, we were dating.
How did you find out that the defendant?
It is with an E. It's Mengel. Mengel. I got it right. Rottweiler interrogations got it wrong, but that's okay. That's okay.
Defendant was pregnant.
Well, I kept trying to talk her into going into the clinic because she was she was vomiting a lot. She seemed really sick, lethargic. She wasn't putting on any weight, and I thought she had mono or something. So she was like, "Well, I don't have insurance. I don't have the money for this. I don't want to go in." And I was like, "You need to go in because, this is just like medic Jason talking. Like, I'm worried for you. You shouldn't be puking this much." And we went in and she got one of the baseline tests they do is a pregnancy test.
And she was told she was pregnant?
Yes.
Did the defendant shortly thereafter have an abortion?
Yes.
Did you and the defendant ever discuss whether or not she would have an abortion?
Not really verbally. It was kind of at when they told her that she was pregnant, I didn't say anything, and she's asked for paperwork, and I'm
Judge,
operating.
I'd like to approach the bench.
So, Mr. Mengel, I'll ask a different question. Same area. So, is it fair that you didn't have much of a verbal conversation about whether or not the defendant would have an abortion?
I'm under the understanding that it's the woman's choice. So, like, when the actions were started, I just stepped back and let what happened happen because.
So there wasn't a real conversation about.
No, I wasn't going to tell her what to do.
You certainly didn't pressure her to have one, correct?
No.
And the abortion that eventually happened in Minnesota, is that right?
Yes.
And you drove her to the clinic, or you went with her at least?
I went with her. Yes.
And you paid for the abortion?
Yes.
And
Hey, Jax Cracks, good to see you again, man. Yeah, Jax Cracks says she had 2 other boyfriends and Jason had no clue. But here's the thing, Jax Cracks. Even after he goes through the phone, finds the text messages, speaks to the other guy, gets it confirmed, he still has no clue what to believe. Still here, sitting on the witness stand today at her murder trial. He's still like, well, I don't know what to believe. Oh, I don't know how he got in this mess,
when you got to the clinic, she told you that she didn't want you at the clinic, correct?
Yeah, it was very strange because I didn't know. I mean, it was a very surreal situation for me in general, but I thought that she would want me there for support. But then she told me that she just wanted, she didn't want me to see her like this or any of that. So I was understanding, and I kind of just hopped on a bus and bummed around town.
So you just kind of rode the buses,
bummed around, yeah.
And eventually went back to the clinic?
Yeah, after I got a message from her.
Prior to the abortion, you mentioned that your relationship was intimate. Was that, did intimacy change after the abortion?
Yeah, it was very, very minimal.
Would you, and I should have asked this earlier, the sleeping arrangements up to that point when she first moved into the apartment, did you share a room?
Yep, we shared a room.
And shared a bed?
Yes.
After the abortion, did you end up sleeping on the couch or on the floor?
I slept on the couch quite a bit. It was just hard on me.
Yeah, Kate, we'll help you with the Discord thing at some later point. But if you want to email, it's just truecrimemetrics@gmail.com, or anyone else, throw in any ideas. But Kate, if you want to get in touch, that's where I am.
And would the defendant sleep in the bed?
Yeah, she would try to coax me upstairs, and I just wasn't emotionally ready for it.
So the couch was in a different room altogether?
Downstairs, yeah.
Now, shortly after, or sometime within the months after the abortion, did you take a trip to California?
Yeah, I went with my friend Josh. And
Where in California did you go?
well, we flew into Detroit first, then we went to San Francisco, took the Redwood Coastal Transit up to Arcata. It's like where the redwoods are.
What was or how long were you gone approximately?
About a week.
And what was the purpose of the trip?
He had some stressful things in his life at that moment, and I had a lot of stress. And I think, but we had talked about it at the coffee shop, and Ezra was supportive. She's like, we've all been through a lot, and the redwoods is like a place of like growth, and there's all this beauty and plants and stuff. So maybe going there would help me recenter myself and being out in an environment besides Eau Claire, because Eau Claire is a great town to miss. It's a good place to come home to sometimes. It can get a little too much sometimes.
Now, was that November?
How many times has he said that? That's one of those little phrases that he keeps in his pocket, isn't it? He's probably said that to his mum. He's probably said that to every friend he's ever met. He's probably said it to just random people in the coffee shop, at the gas station. Eau Claire is a great town to miss. He loves it.
December time period, or?
It sounds about right.
Okay.
I have dates written down somewhere, but I've repressed a lot of this stuff.
And at some point, you actually created a little bit of a timeline. Well, I'll come back to that. I want to go ahead a little bit we'll talk about January into February of 2018. Are you familiar with the game Dungeons and Dragons?
Oh yeah, D&D.
And what, you said D&D?
Yeah, D&D.
Okay. If you could...
And is D&D Dungeons and Dragons? Why does he have to change this? Oh yeah. Big D&D. Big D&D guy right here. Yeah, every Monday night, D&D. We call it Mon D&D.
Explain for the jury what just generally that is.
You roll dice. It's kind of like a game of chance, but like I'm saying like a lot. It's improv with your friends. So you create a character, you go to a place, and someone runs the whole session, and the rest of the players, create like whatever, a bard or a cleric or something. And like the whole idea is to like get you involved in like,
he's trying to explain something here, I think. And all I've gotten so far is, what is D&D? You roll dice. It's a game of chance. You go to a place. You create characters. It's improv with your friends. And what else did he say? None of that's clear. I've heard of it. I have a kind of rough idea of what it is. I think there's like cards involved or something like that, like with characters or something.
Josh, who ran the campaigns, he would create these environments for your personality.
Right. So we've got go to a place, game of chance, improv with your friends, and he's creating an environment.
Your character to like go through.
So is it
There was something about a bard or a cleric. I mean, I'm lost. I'm swimming in ambiguity. I just have no idea. Could you just say, like, is it a board game?
social, like people getting together to play a board game kind of thing?
There's nothing like digital about it. It's
board games aren't digital.
Just, a board, or not really even a board. It's just like they'll do like a map so we can draw out where we're doing things or what's going on. And sometimes tokens.
Should we go over it one more time? Okay. Roll dice, game of chance. Go to a place, create characters, improv with your friends. There's an environment with a cleric or a bard. Draw a map. This sounds like a lot of work. How about poker? What about just sticking with poker or darts? Wisconsin's big on darts, I think, right? Get a dartboard. You throw the darts. It's easy.
It's mostly just a chance to like play make believe with your friends again. So it's kind of fun.
Was that a kind of a getaway for you?
Yeah, we did that on Monday nights.
Is that a regular Monday night thing?
For quite a while, yes. Yeah.
Yeah, we started on Monday night and we didn't leave until Thursday afternoon because we were still setting up the map and coming up with the cleric and the bard and the environment and the dice and the improv with our friends.
Did the defendant ever get in the way of you going to those Monday night events?
There were times. I mean, I thought it would help her, so I kind of inducted her into the group to like, kind of push Josh to like let her play too, because I thought maybe a little fantasy and like something would get her out of character and like
He's not looking for those kind of fantasies.
her life for a little while. But she didn't like the numbers so much in the game, and she always kind of felt like she wasn't doing as good, or she couldn't pretend as good as people. So she stopped coming, and then there were a few times where I don't know if she just didn't want me to go because she was worried I was going to talk bad about her or something, but like she would find a reason to try to make me stay.
And was there a regular reason that she would give you to try to make you stay?
She would get manic at some times and threaten like self-harm.
So she would threaten.
So their relationship is very short-lived, right? I mean, she was pregnant within a couple of months, had an abortion. She was cheating on him by month 3. And now she's saying, if you go and play D&D with your friends, I'm going to kill myself. Like 4 months in. That's time to go, buddy.
Threaten self-harm, you said?
At times, yes.
And would she tell you if she wanted you to come home or she wanted you to stay or what?
She wanted me to stay, and I felt really bad a lot of these times because it was like it always seemed to be the one.
Judge, I'd like to approach the bench.
Very short recess. I'm sorry. We're gonna have you just step out for a few minutes. All rise. All right.
Hello, incognito.
As long as we're on this, we just had a sidebar, so we'll clear this up right now. The defense objection is basically related to the court's pretrial ruling about lay opinions. And Mr. Mengel's probably not aware of that necessarily. And just in his testimony here, he gave an opinion about Ms. McCandless being, quote, manic, quote, and then threatening self-harm. So that's the nature of the objection. So there was a suggestion that we do take a short recess with the jury so the court could give some instruction to Mr. Mengel.
By the way, guys, if this is anyone's first time seeing the judge, he's really good. I think he does a great job at controlling the courtroom. He doesn't exactly use humor, but his manner and demeanor is quite what is the word? It's a bit like Bill Murray or something. And what is that word I'm looking for? Surly. He's quite surly, and I find it comedic. But he's got pretty good control of things, good instinct.
So, Mr. Mengel, you can testify to your observations, but not to your opinions. Okay?
Okay, Roger.
So just have to be very careful about that, because sometimes witnesses tend to want to give an explanation before they give an answer. So
this is not Florida, Kate. This is Wisconsin. So I think this judge under the table probably has a you know, selection cheese board or something, you know, little bit of cheddar, little bit of brie, little bit of Gouda. Oh,
If you would do your best to just focus on the question that is asked of you and answer that question without giving a preface or an opinion, about someone else. There is a ruling, the court is not allowing any laypersons to give opinions about mental health or diagnoses, that sort of thing, unless
sardonic might be a bit of a stretch, Jack's cracks, but on that, heading that way, definitely.
they have the credentials and they've been called as an expert. So, however, you are allowed to give your observations about things that happen, things you see, things you hear. I mean, if you're asked about those things. Okay?
Okay.
But just keep in mind that
Yeah, Kate, this judge's favorite phrase to mark papers is try harder next time.
a witness can only testify about things of their own personal knowledge with some exception. But anything else the council would ask that Mr. Mengel be instructed on?
Not from the state, Judge.
All right. Is the defense satisfied with that instruction to Mr. Mengel?
1 minute, I'm just. Okay, yeah, I'd ask for his comment about her being manic to be stricken from the record. And the court to instruct the jury to.
Well, frankly, that's water over the dam at this point. So that's going to stand, as the defense had indicated in the sidebar. They've waived it up until now. I don't believe the state was trying to elicit that opinion. And so I think saying something more to the jury is just going to draw more attention
Is water over the dam different to water under the bridge?
to it. So I'm not going to say anything further. But again, I understand you're a medic, but you're not called to give professional opinions. And so, again, stick to observations and, just focus on what is asked and try and limit your answer to what the attorney asks. Okay? Okay, so let's bring the jury back in. All rise. All right, thank you. Please be seated. All right, and, Mr. Hahn, you may continue your direct examination.
Thank you. Mr. Mengel, I'm going to shift gears a little bit. You mentioned before that you know an individual, John Hansen, correct?
Yes.
How long have you known John Hansen?
Shift gears, switch gears. I think we've heard that before. And may never hear it again from a certain beard, no beard, half beard, what beard, short, little, weird attorney.
Probably about 4 or 5 years.
Do you remember how you first met him?
I believe it was actually at D&D. Josh was running a campaign, and I met him and his wife at the time.
Would you consider yourselves, and we'll focus really on the summer 2017 through March of 2018. So the same kind of time frame we've been talking about already. Were you friends at that time?
Yeah, exceptionally close.
Did you ever hang out with John Hansen as well as the defendant at the same time?
Yeah, on multiple occasions.
As far as you could tell, were the defendant and John Hansen friends or were they acquaintances?
They were friends. They had interests and hobbies.
Now, was there a time period was there a date when you saw from the outside of your apartment, John Hansen and the defendant inside of your apartment?
There were multiple times, I guess, but yeah, there was one specific one at the.
Was there I guess we'll call it an incident that you observed?
It seemed like an incident, but at the time I wasn't sure because.
So let me just kind of walk through that one by one. What did you observe from the outside of the apartment?
Well, he kind of was like doing a choking style maneuver and she was trying to like break out of it.
And that was, John was doing that to the defendant?
Yes.
Had you seen John do that to people before?
Yeah, it was kind of a thing. Like it was, you know, he has a military background as well. And it was more like I'm going to teach you how to do this in case an assailant tries to hurt you or something. I didn't think any of that, but I finished my cigarette. It wasn't of any warrant to me to rush in there.
It wasn't shocking to you?
No, it wasn't shocking.
You didn't have the impression that the defendant was in any real danger?
Duress, no.
So you finished your cigarette and then you walked in. Do you remember what John did?
He seemed kind of shocked, and then he left.
Now I want to talk about February. Do you remember, so this is February 2018, do you remember being away on military assignment during that time period?
Yeah, I believe so.
Do you remember approximately how long you were gone?
It was probably about 2 or 3 weeks.
Was the defendant still living at your apartment in the beginning of February 2018?
Yes.
And did that change?
While I was gone, yes.
And you've talked to a number of officers in preparation for, or during this investigation, is that correct?
Oh, yes, I'm very busy.
And and you've also had an opportunity to review some of the transcripts of those recorded interviews?
Yes.
And if I was able to show you a portion of a transcript, would that help refresh your memory as to what dates you were actually gone in February 2018?
I believe it would.
Your Honor, may I approach? You may. Counsel, it's DOJ 4320. Want me to show you?
Yes, please.
Watch this. So he's going to show him a document. Obviously, he doesn't remember the exact dates he was gone on deployment back in February 2018. But the attorney's going to show him a document and say, does that refresh your recollection? Watch what he does.
Right. You can read as much of this as you need to, but I'll have you at some point focus in on the highlighted portion. And don't tell me anything out loud. Just tell me when you've had a chance to review that.
Yeah, I reviewed it.
Does that refresh your recollection as to when you were gone?
Yes, it says.
And then I'll take this away from you. And if you could just tell me, based on your refreshed recollection, what dates approximately you were gone in February 2018?
It said 4th to the 14th, I believe. Or I didn't know.
He just doesn't get it, does he? It's like, we can't read from the document, man. Okay? If we just read from the document, we might as well show the jury the document. What we're asking you is, does this refresh your recollection? You go, does that refresh your recollection? Yes, it says, no. I'm going to take the paper away. Now, with your refreshed recollection, what were the dates? And he still can't remember it. He says, oh, I think it said on the document, I think it said the 4th to the 7th. Does that sound like someone who's had their recollection refreshed?
No, I doesn't have to read it out.
And then I'll take this away from you and to review that.
Yeah, I reviewed it.
Does that refresh your recollection as to when you were gone?
Yes, it says.
And then I'll take this away from you. And if you could just tell me, based on your refreshed recollection, what dates approximately you were gone in February 2018?
It said 4th to the 14th, I believe. Or I didn't know I was going to have to read it out. Sorry. I was reading my own.
How can this guy get his head round all the rules of Dungeons and Dragons? What was it again? Roll dice, game of chance, improv with your friends, cleric and a bard in an environment and a map, but he can't do this.
In words, I wasn't sure I was going to have to speak them again. 05 to 13. Okay.
And what were the dates that you were gone, if you recall?
05 to 14.
So February 5th to February 14th, 2018?
Yes.
Do you remember getting...
He's totally blown that, hasn't he? The jury are like, he didn't refresh his recollection.
You said that the defendant living with you at the apartment changed while you were gone. How did you become aware that that changed?
We had a conversation one night. She seemed kind of distant, but I didn't think anything was too amiss. And the next morning, she had messaged me that she needed to move out.
Did that catch you off guard?
Yeah, very.
Do you remember if that was at the beginning or the end of that time you were gone?
It's kind of like in the middle of it, I believe.
Did the defendant actually move out of the apartment?
When I returned home, her stuff was gone.
Yeah, when I returned home, her stuff was gone, and she broke up over text. Well, that was kind and mature, wasn't it? You go to work. Goodbye, darling. Look after yourself. Here's $20 for your mochachinos, and I'll see you when I get back. And then he comes home to an empty house. She's probably taken some things that he owns.
So yes.
So from the time period that the defendant moved out, and I'll ask you some follow-up questions, so I'm just looking for whether or not you're aware. Are you aware of where, so between the time period she moved out,
God damn that microphone. I was just saying, good point, Riding Shotgun. The best place to support the channel this month is indeed buymeacoffee.com/true crime metrics. Next month, November month, we'll be back with all of those other fantastic forms of support. The Patreon. Well, you can still come to Patreon, but also like, share, leave a comment, and buymeacoffee.com/true crime metrics. And also in the description, social networks and Discord. We're going to have a load of people coming over to Discord, guys, tonight. Yeah, tonight there's going to be a party.
out, and then March 22nd, which is the date we're really here for today. Are you aware where she lived? Different
She had
locations.
multiple residences. at
Okay.
that time.
Are you aware that she lived with her mother for a time?
Yes.
Did she tell you that?
Yeah, she had told me.
And did she tell you that she lived with her dad, Joe Shane, or Joe Carlin, for a while as well?
Yes.
Did the defendant tell you that she was looking for an apartment in the Eau Claire area?
Yeah, I believe her and Alex and I can't remember, Sarah, I believe, were possibly going to get an apartment together.
So you said that the defendant and Alex, so you're talking about Alex Woodworth?
Alex Woodworth, yes.
And Samantha, does that sound right?
Samantha, yes, she's a teacher.
Did the defendant ever talk to you about wanting to stay in Eau Claire?
I think she wanted to stay in Eau Claire. I don't think she wanted to move back to Stanley.
Were there times during the time period that when she moved out up into that March 22nd date that she stayed in a hotel?
Yes,
How do you know that?
I was there as well.
Did you get
How do you know that? Well, I just look at the bill. Yeah, she stayed in a hotel on the 15th to the 18th, and then again on the 23rd until the 26th. And that just gets charged straight to my card automatically. Yeah, I set her up with an account at every hotel in town, and that's how I know she was at a hotel.
at the hotel for her?
She didn't have any money, so yes.
She didn't.
She didn't have any money. Well, that's because she doesn't have a job. You have to do a job to get money, Ezra. Okay.
Have money, so yes, you did.
It was kind of a safe haven. She was not having a good. Her home situation wasn't always optimal, so.
So is it she?
Judge, I'm going to
He's completely conned still, isn't he? She lied to this guy to use him. She reckoned he was going to be her cash cow forever. Because he's in his 30s and he's probably a little bit more further ahead in life, even if not in the emotional intelligence department, it seems. But, you know, he's a medic in the army. I mean, that's probably reasonably well paid, isn't it? For the kind of jobs he's doing. I mean, it's got to be more than minimum. It's got to be more than what the baristas are earning at Racy Delane's.
Object to that.
Okay, again, just a reminder, Mr. Mengel, just,
Yes.
you don't have to explain, just answer the questions.
So
Do you think that's going to be the last reminder that Mr. Mengel needs to do this job properly? You see that the judge is getting a little bit frustrated. He's still being very polite, but he's sort of chuckling. He's just like, what? I got to admonish you again? Listen, Mr. Mengel, just a reminder for the 4th time. You don't have to explain. You listen to the question, you answer the question. That's it. We would have been done with your testimony 45 minutes ago if you didn't tell us the inner workings of Dungeons and Dragons.
can I go ahead, Judge?
Yes, go ahead.
So she needed a place to stay and you were helping her out.
She just needs somewhere to stay.
Was she welcome at your apartment anymore?
Alex and Jenna had kind of voiced their opinion on it.
Now, I'm going to object to anything Alex and John told him this here.
Okay, I'll sustain on hearsay grounds for any content.
So you staying at your apartment wasn't an option, is that right?
Yes, it wasn't an option.
And I think you said this, did you stay at the hotel with her on the nights that there was a hotel for her to stay at?
Yes.
During one of the times that you were at the hotel or a hotel, did you observe some messages on the defendant's phone?
Yes.
And who were those messages, if you know, who were the messages between?
Between her and John.
John Hansen?
John Hansen, yes.
Your Honor, may I approach?
You may.
I'm going to show you what's marked as exhibit 473 first, 474.
Have I got this right? Okay. He goes away on deployment, not knowing that she's going to move out. She breaks up with him over text while he's away and moves out while he's away. She's already been fucking 2 of his friends, moves out of his house, has caused so much drama that the other people that live there don't want her there even for a night, and now is asking him to pay for her hotel, but probably not asking him right. Probably saying, oh, I went to my mother's and they were abusive to me. And then I had to sleep in my car, but that's okay. It's okay. I'll deal with it. I'll deal with it. This is my responsibility. Hey, do you want a hotel? Yeah, sure. I'd like the Beverly Hilton in Eau Claire. Okay.
475.
Do you think we should get room service? Because I think I'm too upset to go out. I might have an episode, an attack.
And 476. So first of all, if you could look at 473, do you recognize what that, just a yes or no, do you recognize what that document is?
Yes, I recall this.
Is that a snapshot of some of the messages you saw on the defendant's?
Yeah, I screenshotted them and sent them to my phone.
When you say screenshotted, do you mean you used her device?
I used multiple buttons, and I think I did that, or maybe I took a photo. I can't recall for sure at this moment. But.
Is that an accurate copy of the messages you remember seeing on the defendant's phone?
Of just this first one or the entire?
Just the first one first.
Yes.
And then if I could have you look at exhibit 474, please.
Okay.
And the same question, do you recognize those messages?
Yes,
Are those again messages between the defendant and John Hansen?
they are.
And are those messages that you snapshotted on her device and sent to you or took a picture with your device?
either of those. I can't recall for sure which, but I sent them to myself.
And again, is that an accurate?
So we're just about to move on to like phase 3 here. First, she breaks up with him over text, moves out of the house when he's away, has already been fucking 2 of his friends, won't get invited or permitted back into his place because the other people don't like her anymore because she's a drama queen, goes and lives with her mother, makes up some bullshit story about them abusing her, sleeping in the car, manipulates him into paying for a hotel, which he will visit also, go through her phone when she's in the shower or something, take pictures of all this sexy text stuff that he's about to read out in public. And when he confronts her about it, she says, no, that was a rape. Don't think that was cheating now. That was a rape. That was a double rape. What a bitch this girl is, man. I really, she's one of all of the sickos we cover, Wendy Adelson aside, let's just leave her over there. She's in her own category. But of all the sickos we cover, this girl really annoys me.
Copy of the messages that you remember seeing?
They are.
And the next exhibit, I believe, should be 475. Is that correct?
Yes.
Same question. Do you recognize those as being messages that you observed on the defendant's device between the defendant and John Hansen?
Yes.
And again, you either captured them somehow
They captured them somehow.
and
Yes.
sent them to your phone or kept them on your phone?
Yes.
And those are accurate as you remember them?
Yeah, they haven't been altered or anything. They're accurate.
And then the final one, I believe, is exhibit 476. Are those again accurate messages between the defendant and John Hansen as you saw them on her device while at the hotel in the time period we talked about?
Yes.
And are those accurate as you recall them?
Yeah, as accurate as I can recall.
Your Honor, I'd move exhibits 473 through 476 into evidence and ask to publish to the jury by putting out the envelope.
All right, previous objection noted, preserved for the record. Court will receive exhibits 473 through 476 and may be published to the jury.
First is exhibit 473. And Mr. Mengel, those are dated February 11th, 2018. Is that correct?
Yeah, I believe that's the sent date.
And from your recollection of these
Man, nothing like ripping open old wounds for this guy, huh? In front of a massive audience publicly.
messages, are you able to say which, either the blue bubbles or the white bubbles are the defendant or John?
The blue bubbles are the white bubbles. The horny bubbles are Ezra's bubbles. The big horny bubble, blue bubble, horny bubble is Ezra's bubble.
Hansen?
It's
Slut bubble.
stressful looking for places, so that would be Ezra McCandless.
Okay, so the blue would be the defendant
Yes.
and the white would be John Hansen?
Yes.
Okay, and if you could just read the first message from the defendant, from John Hansen at the top says, nice, correct?
Correct.
And how does the defendant respond?
It's stressful looking for places, so that would be nice to relieve.
And it actually says relive, correct?
I think she meant relieve, but yeah, relive.
And then
There he goes, interpreting things again. Now he's going to reshape the evidence because of what he believes it to be. He really just does not have any grasp on this courtroom format, does he? And I understand laymen come in to be witnesses all the time and they make these mistakes. But most people are able to sort of adapt to it and go, okay, so this is, you want me to literally read what I see because that's what the evidence is, right? He's made this mistake more than 20 times already.
the next message down is again from the defendant. What does that say?
Judge, I'm going to object to. Mr.
I've sustained, again, Mr. Mengel, just what you see, not what you
Yes, sir.
think or interpret or think she meant, but just what you observe, okay?
Roger.
Just keep going.
If I could have you read the next message starting with working out.
Working out, again, does really make you want to fuck everything that's moved.
And then the next message again from the defendant says what?
Might also be a predator.
And then the last message there, which is from John.
That was a good premonition. I'm sure that the 24-year-old, very kind young man that you butchered in a muddy field in the middle of nowhere, left him to die, bleeding out, half dragged out of a car, taking his phone and smashing it to pieces, so there was no way for him to call for help. I'm sure he would call you a predator, Ezra.
Hansen is cut off. Is that right?
Yeah, a body in motion wants to stay in motion.
Okay, and I'll show you Exhibit 474. Does the top message pick up where that message left off?
Yes, it does.
If you could read the first blue message from the defendant.
Are you going to pound this anytime soon?
And the message below that is what?
Sorry, I'm rude.
Again, from the defendant.
Yes.
And the response from John Hansen.
Not this week. I have Warren. It's all right to be blunt. Just got to be all right with it coming back your way.
How familiar? You're good friends with John?
I love how he's John Hansen is like, are you going to pound this anytime soon? Well, no, not this week. I have other things to do, things that interest me. It was a mistake. I mean, he's not saying it was a mistake, but it's implied, right?
John Hansen?
Yes,
Are you familiar with whether he has a child?
he does.
And what is that child's name?
Warren.
And the message below that from the defendant, the final one on this screenshot, is what?
Just let me know when I get my next in and out. Also hanging and doing art again would be nice because you're more than a good dick.
Move on to Exhibit 475.
Bear in mind that while she's sending these messages, she was in a relationship that was said to be committed and exclusive with the guy that is now reading them out in her murder trial publicly. That's kind of rough for him, huh?
If you could read, starting with the top message in the blue from the defendant.
That should be nice. He's such a cool kid.
And the response from John Hansen.
Why, thank you. He's a good kid. I'm looking forward to spending some dad time with him.
And the next message from the defendant.
That melts.
And you know what I think? There's when it comes to victim impact statements, this John Hansen, I think, is also military, some way, shape, or form. In no way, shape, or form was it intentional. But he's also a similar age to Jason Mengel over here, and he has a young son. And Ezra spent a whole weekend with John and the young son, cooking with them, doing art with them. She went back to the coffee house and says, oh, it was so fantastic. We did cooking and art with his young son. But when it comes to victim impact statements and people start making family members of Ezra speak on her behalf a little bit, calling for leniency, basically, calling for some hope of parole for her one day just before sentencing. And some of them, I think it's her aunt, speaks of how good she was as a nanny for her when she was a bit younger. So she has some way with children, right? I think she was trying to line this John Hansen up to say, yeah, so you've got this house, right? You've got this house, and I'm really good with your son. So, maybe I could live here, help you with your son, and you could pay for all of my mochachinos and $4.50 blueberry muffins. I need 12 a day. Okay? That's what she was lining up the next bankroller, basically, right? Well, I'm not going to get a job. So what about if I did another job, like poaching off men. Sounds like man poacher, money man poacher.
It's my heart. I'd love to paint with him sometime.
And then it looks like there's a date that says February 12th, 2018 at 7:40 p.m., correct?
Correct.
And the next message from the defendant says what?
Feeling like
Yeah, this is John Hansen, Niverly.
a snake today. What's wriggling in your mind?
And there's another bubble with a date and time, February 12th, 2018 at 8:11 p.m., correct?
Correct.
And what is the response from from John Hansen?
I've been with Warren all day. My mind is pretty preoccupied.
Let me show you Exhibit 476. Starting at the top, that's the message you just read, correct?
Correct.
And then there's another bubble that says February 12th, 2018 at 8:58 p.m., correct?
Correct. Yep.
And what is the message underneath that from the defendant?
That's understandable. Dad time.
And then there's a bubble that says February 14th, 2018 at 6:45 p.m., is that correct?
Correct.
And the message below that from the defendant says what?
See something, say nothing, and drink to forget. Happy Valentine's.
And there's another bubble, February 14th, 2018 at 8:27 p.m., correct?
Yes.
And there's a message from John Hansen below that. What does that say?
That's beautiful as Happy Valentine's. Or Ezra.
This is about 3 weeks before the murder, these texts, okay? And this is a strange dynamic, right? She wants to, she must want to kill this Warren kid now. It's like, can you just put your kid down for 2 minutes and pay attention to me? Tell me you want to unwrap the gift of my feminine virtue. But now, how many days passed? Well, only 2 days passed since the last text, but it's Valentine's Day now. So she sends him this, what is it, a haiku or something? See something, say nothing, and drink to forget. Happy Valentine's. Is that a haiku? Which I don't understand it if it is. See something, say nothing, and drink to forget. Happy Valentine's. But then I don't think John understood it either, because he says, that's beautiful, Ezra. And I think that's his way of, like, he doesn't want to tell her to fuck off, but he also doesn't want to give her any attention, right? Because if you give Ezra attention, soon she'll be moving in and taking all of your money for mochachinos and fucking blueberry muffins, right? And act like she's doing you a favor looking after your kid, which you never asked for. She'll say, oh, Warren would like some art supplies. Yeah, Warren would, he's gifted, And if we get these art supplies, we can take him down to Racy Delane's and get him hooked on double espressos. I kind of like the way that this John Hansen cat is handling the situation. Ish. I mean, in what we can glean from these few text messages.
Ezra, there's another bubble that says February 15th, 2018 at 12:14 p.m., correct?
Yes.
And the last message from the defendant to John Hansen says what?
I have a way with words, John.
It's AHAH, correct?
Yeah.
Thank you. Was there a conversation that followed your discovery of those messages?
Yeah, we had a conversation.
And that was a conversation between you and the defendant?
Between me and the defendant and between me and John via telephone.
Now let's start with your conversation between you and the defendant. What did the defendant tell you about those messages?
She insisted that it was of a malicious manner, like that it wasn't what I thought.
Don't forget Jodi Arias, Chris Parks.
Did she tell you, and I don't want you to assume, I just want you to tell me what she told you if she did. Did she tell you anything that explains what you mean when you say it was in a malicious manner?
Not until we Not until we had actually left the hotel because we went on a drive. But that's when she inferred to it being.
My God. Did he not just get an explicit instruction by the attorney? It was a yes/no question. Listen to this again. I think the attorney's getting frustrated now. He's like, listen, focus, for fuck's sake. Listen to the words. Do you need me to draw you a diagram?
Did she tell you, and I don't want you to assume,
I don't want you to assume.
want you to tell me what she told you if she
I just want you to tell me what she told you.
did. Did she tell you anything that explains what you mean when you say it was in a malicious manner?
Did she tell you anything that explains what you mean when you say it was in a malicious manner? That is a yes/no question, right? You answer that question yes, no, and then the attorney can follow up if he needs to.
Not until we had actually left the hotel because we went on a drive. But that's when she inferred to it being it's like an assault.
Said that John Hansen assaulted her?
Yes.
Did she say whether that was before or after those messages that you saw?
Did you say that before or after?
I should rephrase that. So the messages aren't from the date that you saw them, are they?
No, I think I screenshotted them for my own levity
And the
I didn't get that.
I screenshotted them for my own levity to save because I was thinking I was losing my mind in all these conversations with people.
so the messages say February 11th through 14th as the dates.
Is that the right use of the word levity?
You didn't see them till a couple weeks later, is that
Yes,
right?
until later on.
So did the defendant tell you that as she described it, the assault by John Hansen occurred before or after the dates on the messages?
I cannot recall. I know that the assault happened while I was gone.
And at some point, you actually created
I created a timeline.
a bit of a timeline, correct?
Yeah.
And that was based on information that you knew at the time you created the timeline?
I was trying to make sense of it all.
Did that have a date?
You should have called Jeff Lacasse to help you with your work if you're creating a timeline and going through. Jeff Lacasse went through all the receipts, the phone calls, the emails. He made a very good effort, and you made a mess.
That you're aware of that you believe the assaults to have happened on?
Yeah, I don't think I put it in. I put it on the paperwork, yes.
And if I showed you that timeline that you created, would that help refresh your recollection as to when when you believe the assaults to have occurred?
Yes.
Your Honor, may I approach?
You may.
Counsel, it's actually marked as exhibit 455.
Yeah, I'm not finding it right this second. Here you go.
Oh, Mr. Mengel, does this look like the timeline that you created?
Yes, this is the one, the police officers.
And I'm going to ask you just to review it, and then I'll ask you some follow-up questions once you've had a chance to take a look and see if it refreshes your memory.
Yeah, it's the second hash mark on here.
Okay, so you've had a chance to review that document. Does that refresh your recollection as to when
Yes.
you believe the assaults occurred?
4 or 5.
As February 4th or 5th?
Yes, the hash mark, second hash mark on there.
And again, we're talking about the 2018 time period, right?
Yes.
So that would have been before the dates on the messages we looked at on the screen, correct?
Yeah, the 4 and 5 is because the assault was, there were 2 assaults apparent. One at night and one in the morning prior, like afterwards. So I was under the impression it was she had been at his house and then the next day was also.
And we'll walk through that in a second here. You said that the conversation initially was between you and the defendant, and then there was a phone call to John Hansen. Did you confront him about what the defendant was telling you
Yes,
and about what the messages showed?
yes.
And did John Hansen tell
I think she'd have been worse than Jodi Arias, guys. You see, I know Jodi's crime was even more brutal. Alex Woodworth had 16 stab wounds, and yes, they were to horrific places like slashing his neck, stabbing him in the nuts, and to the chest, to the head, puncturing his brain, and just horrific way to go. One of the most violent crimes that the state attorneys have seen in their careers, and some of the detectives, I would imagine. And Jodi's Travis Alexander had 27 stab wounds, wasn't it? And a gunshot to the head and a slashed throat from ear to ear, so much almost his head came off. Plus, she did all those news interviews, and she was just a whole different level of, look at me, right? But if I had to choose which person that I had to sit down and eat a meal with, it would 100% be Jodi Arias. I think I could handle Jodi Arias. But this chick, no. I don't want to eat anything with her, ever.
tell you that initially there wasn't a sexual assault, there wasn't a sexual encounter?
There was nothing at all, he said at first. And once I produced things, the stories changed, and I just didn't know who to trust.
Okay. And we'll just walk through this step by step here. So you said that there were really 2 incidents, and we based on your timeline, we're looking at February 4th and February 5th. What specifically did the defendant tell you happened during the February 4th incident?
The nighttime one?
Yes.
Nighttime one. In case anyone doesn't know, she's accusing, she had sex with John Hansen twice, one at night, one in the morning, right? And when she goes to Jason and says, yeah, it was all rape, no consent, rape. She says, yeah, what happened is he raped me at night. Then I stayed over. And then in the morning, would you believe it? He raped me again. And this guy just so wants to hang on to the notion that this young woman that he thinks he loves, because she's known how to play on all of the things he wants and desires and fears, right? She's just knows how to play on that he is so willing, so desperate to maintain that view of her, that he's willing to say goodbye to all reason. All reasonable thought is gone with this guy. Imagine someone said that to you. Yeah, there were 2 rapes. He raped me, I stayed over, and then he raped me again. You just go, okay, this is bullshit. You're a liar. You're a liar. Plus, we have the texts. This guy just really needs to maintain. I do feel sorry for him, but there's a limit. There's a limit. He just. I hope he's. Actually, I don't think he is doing that well now. He's working in Menards. He left the army. He's working in Menards, stuck in paint. Helping people find their roofing hammers. He's probably just still thinking, well, I wonder if she was telling the truth. Oh, I hope one day he learns, maybe we should bring him on as a guest. Has anyone got a number for Jason Mengel?
They had all been drinking together. They were kind of giving her a hard time for not keeping up. So she was trying to drink with the boys, I guess. And
let me just stop you there. Who was they? They were drinking together.
John and Ryan.
Is that John's roommate at the time?
John's roommate, yes.
So John, Ryan, and the defendant were drinking, right?
Yes.
What did the defendant tell you happened next?
She stated that she was being taken upstairs. Well, she had puked in the toilet quite a bit. Ryan went to bed. And she was taken upstairs and laid in bed. And she just, she assumed that she was being taken care of. She could just use the bed then.
Did the defendant tell you what she said John did next?
She said that she felt her tights being pulled down at some point.
Did the defendant say that John had sex with her?
She says when she woke up, she said that something felt off. She says in the moment of it, she was blacked out, drunk pretty much. So
that's what she said.
Vaguely.
And I didn't mean to interrupt. I'm sorry.
Actually, it's a Wisconsin original. Neverly Menards is from Wisconsin, I believe, as far as I know. What do I know? I know nothing, but I did look it up. And it's across areas of the Midwest and apparently also on the West Coast.
Yeah.
That was information that she told you.
Yeah, that there was that a woman won't.
I do remember saying it. I know you like Making a Murderer, Neverly, and when Stephen Avery is having the interview with the news crew, when they're still looking for Teresa Holbach's body, and he's talking about seeing tail lights. Do you remember that? Seeing them down the drive, down near the trailers. They saw tail lights. He says to his brother Chuck, "We just went on to Menards."
Will know some things if something has happened in the morning.
Did the defendant tell you if John told her to go into another room?
I think I believe he asked her to go into a.
It's a hardware store, Chris, like where you buy paint, hammers. I don't know what it's called in Australia. Bunnings. Okay. Yeah, it's where you buy all the tools and building supplies.
A different room, yes. I can't recall though for sure.
Okay. Now, it sounds like a nighttime incident. And then did the defendant tell you that if she stayed over at John's house that night?
She stayed over and he dropped her off in the morning, I believe.
So on February 5th, 2018, you referenced the second assault. What specifically did the defendant tell you happened on February 5th?
She said that he dropped her off. She said that he played kind of coy to it, that nothing had happened. So he dropped her off.
Was that
to use the bathroom?
Was that dropped her off at the apartment that
at our apartment? Yes.
Okay. You said John came in to use the bathroom?
That's what I believe she had stated.
And what did the defendant tell you happened next?
That there was a second assault at the apartment.
Did the defendant tell you where that happened in the apartment?
On my bed. Our bed.
Oh my God. Oh, okay. So it wasn't at his house in the morning. He raped her at his house, and then she stayed over, and he drove her back to their house in the morning, and then he raped her again on his bed. Oh man. And thank you so much, Riding Shotgun. I just saw those coffees come in. Thanks for supporting the channel, Riding. That really is very much appreciated, and I can't thank you enough, really. And for all the work you do as a fantastic moderator. It's just so great to have you here, Riding, and Neverly. And I think we might have lost Amy. She might have fallen asleep. But that's okay. We'll see you on the replay, Amy.
Bed.
Were you still in a dating relationship with the defendant at the time of that assault on February 4th?
Yes.
As well as February 5th?
Yes.
Did you have any artwork in your room at the apartment?
There's lots of pieces of art in the apartment. Yeah.
Was there a specific piece hanging over the bed?
Yes, there was.
Do you remember if that painting over the bed was there when the defendant and John Hansen were in there on February 5th, 2018?
I believe it would have been. I was still there when I returned.
Okay, so it was there when you left and it was there when you returned? Do you know what eventually happened to that painting?
I know I gave it back because I felt weird. It had sentimental value and I didn't want it looming over my head. But I think I believe she traded it with Maxwell.
Is that Max Martinson?
Yes. They did like an art swap.
Okay, guys. Now I'm just thinking about switching. We're halfway through the direct examination of Jason here. I'm just wondering if we shouldn't have a little bit of contrast. Well, I'll let the second one play out for now, while I'm looking for the other thing.
Did you eventually learn of another sexual relationship the defendant was involved in while you were in a dating relationship with her?
Yes,
Who did that involve?
with Alexander Woodworth.
Do you remember approximately when you learned about that relationship?
I don't know. I kind of knew something was up at points, but I didn't really finitely know until the night that I had the conversation with him and John Hansen at Racy's.
So did you confront both of them at the same time?
Yes, I had a conversation with them.
Okay. And I'm sorry, I didn't mean to use the word confront. I should let you speak. How did you confirm that there was a sexual relationship between the defendant and Alex Woodworth?
I just like the list I made, I kept compiling things and it just fit. So I kind of figured it out myself. Plus other parties had elaborated to it on me.
Did you ask the defendant about the relationship?
Not immediately.
Did you ask or tell Alex that you knew?
I went out for a smoke with Alex and we had a semi-stern conversation about how, I really loved and respected him and I couldn't understand why this was happening. And then I did not know about the other stuff yet, but I mean.
Did the defendant eventually tell you about the sexual relationship she had with Alex Woodworth?
Yes.
Did she tell you initially, what did she tell you about the first time that she was engaged in a sexual encounter with Alex Woodworth?
The first time, like the date, or the first time the encounter?
The first encounter, what did she tell you initially that was?
I believe while I was in the Redwoods, there was a date when they went on a walk together and some things transpired.
When you say things transpired, I don't want you to speculate, but did the defendant tell you more about what that means?
Well, she had spent the night, I believe, at his apartment.
Yeah, things transpired.
Did the defendant tell you if she went to Alex Woodworth after the incident with John?
Yeah.
You know what? I bet that's a line she used on him. Right? I can't stand her in her interrogation. She does this stupid, vague answers thing, like things transpired with the detective. And he's like, okay, well, what were they?
Yes, she went to him for like counsel or for help because she trusted him.
Did the defendant tell you what happened then?
That there was another situation. She put it as if he had taken like advantage of her weekend state almost.
Again, I don't want you to make an inference or assume, but did the defendant say whether or not there was a sexual encounter between her and Alex Woodworth that time?
I believe there was something coerced or some relations that were had.
Is that how she described it?
I'm going to object and ask that you move to strike. I believe something was coerced. His belief is not relevant.
I can follow up with a clarifying question, Judge.
All right, well, the objection's noted. Again, counsel, when you make your objection, please use the microphone.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It's shut off. I mean, I can hear you, but
No, I apologize,
I don't
Judge.
know
I forgot.
public can hear you.
Okay, sure.
All right, well, again, Mr. Mengel, again, just stick to, again, what's asked and what was said to you. I think in this line of questioning, you pretty much have to stick with what Ms. McCandless said to you rather than how you interpreted it. Okay?
Roger.
Okay.
Yes.
Did the defendant
Roger. Stop saying Roger.
tell you that
I'd love
Alex
it.
took
I'd love it if the judge said to him, "Listen, just stick to the question and don't speak to her interpretation." And he says, "Roger," and the judge just turns back to him and says, "And stop that as well. It's getting on my nerves."
advantage of her?
That's how she stated it.
Now, you eventually, at some point, you found out that the defendant and Alex Woodworth were involved in a relationship long.
Yeah, you're right, Derek. That is the wrong word, isn't it? What is being coerced? The physical act of love was coerced out of me. They beat me with a phone book.
Longer than just the February time period, correct?
Yeah, I believe so.
Um,
I wrote the dates down once again.
That was right.
I wrote the dates down once again on my.
and was there do you know what the Little Prince is?
It's a book. I think it's a French book.
And does that Little Prince mean anything to you in terms of figuring out a time period that you believe the relationship between the defendant and Alex Woodworth existed?
I believe that was the first night she spent at his house. They watched the movie and Donnie Darko.
And do you remember, as you sit there today, what the date that was?
Negative. I just looked at it, but I can't recall.
Negative, Roger. Oh.
And if I showed you that same timeline that you mentioned, would that help refresh your recollection?
Yes.
Is this the same timeline that you previously looked at to refresh your recollection?
Yes.
And by looking at that again, would that help refresh your recollection as to the Little Prince incident? And I'm going to take that away from you. If that refreshes your recollection, what was the date of the Little Prince?
No, Alex is the guy that read Kierkegaard while having sex. Derek, not Jason.
Movie viewing with the defendant and Alex Woodworth.
November 7th.
And that's 2017, correct?
Yes.
And you just did the defendant tell you eventually what had happened that night between the defendant and Alex Woodworth?
That the intercourse had happened.
All right, if I may approach again.
You may.
I'm going to show you what's marked as Exhibit 685. Do you recognize what that is?
That's me.
And what is it a picture of a message?
Yeah, this is me in California.
And that message, does it reference the Little Prince?
Yes, this was a great night.
I want to.
Yeah, it references.
It references the Little Prince. And is that a conversation between you and the defendant?
Yes.
Does it have a date on it?
November 7th at 1:23 p.m.
Okay. Your Honor, so is that an accurate copy of a conversation you and the defendant had on November 7th, 2017?
Yes.
I move that exhibit into evidence and ask for permission to publish.
Any objection?
Nope.
All right. Exhibit 6, is it 685?
It is.
And by the way, you were correct with the last one. I had it wrong. Exhibit 685 is received. You may publish.
So exhibit 685. And Mr. Mengel, if you could read, so the top bubble, is that a message from the defendant to you?
Yes.
And what does that say?
She's also suicidal, so I've been really working hard to stay with her.
Can we zoom in on that? Another one of these very juvenile, posy, funky glasses selfies, right? I don't think this man ever grew up. You know, I bet his mother packed his lunch for him every day. You know, his favorite lunch every day. right up until he was 38 years old when she died.
But hanging with Sailor and her BF was great. I got to watch The Little Prince with Alex, so that's refreshing. Work tomorrow.
Thank you. Do you recall where you were at the time that that conversation occurred?
I believe I was in San Francisco, but I might have been already in Arcata.
Somewhere out west?
In California at that time, yeah.
Yeah, he went to check out all the Menards in the West Coast.
Did the defendant give you an explanation of how the relationship between her and Alex Woodworth progressed?
Like an explanation on how it happened?
Yeah, did she say that, did she say if she was, yes, how did it happen?
They were both going through some things in life, and she had been through something traumatic. He had been through traumatic things, so they kind of bonded over, like, misery loves company kind of thing.
Did the defendant ever, and right now I'll follow up with some questions, but I just want a yes or no. First of all, did the defendant ever tell you about the sexual encounters between the two?
Negative. At that time?
At any point?
Not until.
You know what Ezra's trauma was? She was driving and hit a horse which went through her windshield. That's dramatic, isn't it? But how did that happen? Was she driving irresponsibly? Was she drunk? Maybe.
Until I confronted.
So that was after you learned?
After I learned, yeah.
And what did the defendant tell you about the sexual encounters she had with Alex Woodworth?
Are we talking after I
Yes.
found out or before?
After you found out, I'm sorry.
Okay. She said that, we didn't talk much until after all this stuff had transpired. So it was different, I guess. I'm not sure what a tender term to use.
Did the information that she provided to you, was that after she moved out of your apartment?
The information provided, yes, after she was gone.
And did the defendant tell you that things went too fast with Alex?
Yeah, they went pretty fast, she said.
Did she tell you?
Can you imagine how old the Raja thing would get in Racy Delane's? It's like he orders a cappuccino and the barista says, "Would you like a dusting of nutmeg?" And he says, "Roger."
That Alex would do certain things to her during sexual acts.
She mentioned things, yes.
What did the defendant say?
I'm not entirely sure on the verbiage, but it was like choking or boarding or something, I believe it was. I can't really recall. Boarding? I'm not sure if I recall what it was called, but.
Now, that information.
Yeah, Neverly, it was a horse and buggy. So supposedly that would include a human being as well. Pretty easy to spot, right?
Information that she told you, that was after she had moved out of your apartment?
This was way out. This is very far after, yes.
And was it also after you found out about her relationship with John Hansen?
Yes.
And it was obviously after you had found out about her relationship with Alex Woodworth, correct?
There's no doubt that it would have been traumatic. You know, you're driving along, you have an accident, and suddenly there is a horse in your car. You know, that's come through the windshield. I mean, how much does a horse weigh? That is a big animal. strong, pure muscle. Yeah, that would be traumatic. But I'm knowing what I know about Ezra, I don't know how it happened, but I'm willing to lean towards it being completely her fault because she's a fuckhead.
Correct?
Yes.
Now, up until that point that you found out about those relationships, had she ever mentioned anything to you about that?
Up until she mentioned,
Had she, actually, that was a terrible question. I'll rephrase that. Up until you found out about the defendant's relationship with both Alex as well as John Hansen, had she told you about the different sexual things Alex Woodworth did with her?
she didn't really elaborate. I knew that something had happened, but she didn't elaborate.
At some point, did you clean up a bandage or clean up Alex Woodworth's arm and put a bandage on?
I did.
How did that, was that because the defendant contacted you and said he needed to help Alex?
Yeah.
And where did you go to help Alex?
His and Matt's house.
What did you observe on Alex that needed to be bandaged?
He hadn't dug very deep, but he had slit his wrist.
Did you clean out the wound?
Yeah, I cleaned it out, and I think I used some type of Dermabond, I guess, to seal it.
Do you remember approximately, and I know this is a long time ago, do you remember a month, a general time frame when that happened?
I can't be sure.
Do you remember telling officers that you thought it was around the time of like seasonal depression?
It was in the holiday season because I can't recall the exact date, but the knife that he said he had slipped using, he was drinking that night. He said he slipped and cut himself. Was a gift from a coworker at work.
Did you see the knife that he said he used?
I didn't see the knife that he said he used.
Did the defendant tell you what Alex told her about why he cut his wrist?
He had told her if she didn't leave him, he was going to kill himself.
And when you say him, is that you?
Me, yes.
Did the defendant,
Again, did that really happen? Because that was Ezra's way of manipulating people. If you don't do this, I will kill myself. I will self-harm if you don't do what I say. And now Ezra has informed Jason that Alex slit his wrist because he had said to Ezra that Alex had said to Ezra, if you don't leave Jason, I will kill myself. And of course, Ezra telling Jason that she didn't do that because she loves him, Jason, and now Alex has hurt himself, creates an emotional trap for Jason, right? On the one hand, he's pleased that she chose him. On the other hand, he feels guilty for what Alex has done. She made that up. She made that up.
when she,
You know, he did cut himself, but I don't think it was for those reasons.
described her sexual relationship with Alex Woodworth, did she describe it as consensual?
She said it was somewhat, I don't know how to speculate on consent.
And I won't ask you to speculate. Let me ask a different question. Did she ever tell you that did the defendant ever tell you that Alex took advantage of her?
There were times she said that he was aggressive and would kind of throw a tantrum almost.
Did she ever tell you that he raped her?
She never made it sound like rape with Alex.
But she did with John?
Yes.
And I'm going to object to leading. Ask that be stricken.
Sustained on leading.
Did the defendant ever tell you how Alex described his feelings for the defendant?
He loved her very much.
That's what she said?
Yeah, I think at one point they planned to maybe move out to Portland or something.
Do you remember what time period generally that was?
I mean, it would have been initially after I found out about all the stuff, because I confronted him and we had a slight conversation. I mean, I didn't like him, but I still loved him. I was angry.
And you're talking about Alex?
Woodworth, yes.
What's all that about? This guy is so emotionally dependent on Racy's and Dungeons and Dragons and people sleeping with his girlfriend even. I mean, it's crazy.
So you mentioned that you talked to both John as well as Alex once you found out about the relationships, right?
Yes, I talked to John.
Where did that conversation happen?
Me and John's?
When you were in person, not on the phone. We talked about the phone. But
yeah, at Racy's.
At Racy's? Was Alex there as well?
Yes. The conversation between John Hansen and me and Alex was before the John days, though. I didn't know about John's situation. I believe I did not know about John's situation until after the fact.
Okay.
Because I talked to John Hansen outside about, did you know this? Like, how come nobody told me? Like, why is everyone just lying to me?
About Alex?
Yes. You know, I don't think I had any information on Hansen's transgression yet.
And then, do you remember, was there an event that was going on the day that the not confrontation, but the discussion with Alex occurred at Racy's?
Yeah, there was an art exhibit, like at Shift, the bike coffee shop.
Now, at some point, you talked with law enforcement about the John Hansen relationship with the defendant, correct?
Yes.
And do you remember going over to Josh Trankler's house?
Yeah, I was pretty irate.
Was that before or after you found out about John?
Before, after I found out about John.
Yeah, did you go to Josh's house? Was that after?
I already knew about it when I went to Josh's.
And when you said you were pretty irate, was that because you learned about John?
I learned about what had happened, and I just wanted Josh to help me find like a center and like, what do we do? Like, what do we do for her?
Was Josh a good friend of yours?
Yeah, very good.
Did he call the police?
Yeah, he called the police, and someone came over to take statements.
And did the defendant go to the police department, if you know?
At some later date, yes, I was with her.
Do you remember if she went that night? If you recall.
She might have went in for a kit, but it was a couple of days it had been so many days that I think they said it wouldn't have been plausible to find.
So that's just based on your recollection?
That's based on my recollection.
Okay. Did you ever tell the defendant that she had to go tell the police?
I didn't want to force her, but the way I prefaced it was, you can't, if this assault happened, just because there's a chance that they won't find evidence on you, it'll put someone on the radar for future. And it's not about an assault that happened to you. It's for the next girl. So I kind of tried to, I wouldn't say I tried to coach her, but
Yeah, it could be for the next girl, Jason. But if you had your head screwed on, you'd know that she'd be bullshitting you. And you are now advising the police for her to go to the police and point the finger at a completely innocent man for a sexual offense, as a sex offender, as a rapist. You know, it's a good job he had those text messages that showed how up for it she was, you know.
Just try to like show her the humanity in it. Be like, if this happened, you need to report this.
Did you tell her what to say?
No, I didn't coach her at all.
Did you ever tell her to lie?
No.
So after you found out about Alex and the defendant and John and the defendant, I assume you said Racy's is a pretty tight-knit group?
Yeah.
Did people at Racy's find out?
Yeah, everyone knew.
Did they talk about it?
It was kind of hush. Like, I mean, it was like Snickers and stuff like that, you know. People would, you know, sidebar comments and whatnot.
Did the defendant ever talk to you about whether or not she cared that people knew?
About the relationships?
Or about, let me rephrase that. Did she ever talk to you about people talking about her at Racy's?
She didn't like it.
So she knew it was happening?
Yeah, people were being, she knew it was happening.
At some point, were you alerted that there was...
He was just going to over-explain and expand, and he's starting to get it now, isn't he? The judge has turned that C- to a B-.
a message in the bathroom at Racy's?
Yes.
What was that message?
It was like black ink and then her number.
Her number and...
Did you see it yourself?
I saw it myself at one point and took a photo. I wrote over it.
Nah, he's back to over-explain. Did you see it yourself? I saw it myself and took a photo. And wrote over it. And then I took a piss. And then I went back to the coffee lounge.
What did you write over it?
A conversation that we had a conversation, and her father, Joe, had told her like life starts now, and like she was in the process of getting another job. She was going in on, I think it was a Friday for it.
Is that what she told you? She's like, yeah, I'm in the process of getting another job. Okay, it's a process. Okay, just very slowly starting the process. We're starting the job process. It's like Chandler Halderson, right? Yeah, you know, I thought I'd go upstairs and do my job search. Yeah, I went to Google. I said, Google, okay, Google, jobs in Wisconsin. And a list came up and I clicked, and then I said, okay, Google, jobs in Madison, Wisconsin. And then another list came up and I did my job search and the process had begun.
TV test to be read. She was going to pick up scrubs.
So things were
Things
changing.
were going good. And like, it was just like, you don't have to live in the past just because these bad things happen.
And
life starts now.
You took a picture of the message?
Yeah.
Did you send it to
Yeah, life does start now, unless you're Alex Woodworth, which if you are, life is very, very close to the end, to the brutal, horrific, painful, lonely end. Well done, Ezra. Way to go to really turn that attempt at a nice, inspirational sentiment from your adopted father into something horrific for us all to, well, I don't know if enjoy is the right word. What would be the word? What are we doing here? Learning? Is this learning? I think it's the learning process. We're beginning to learn.
the defendant?
I sent it to her.
Okay. Your Honor, may I approach?
You may.
Mr. Mengel, is that the photograph of the message on the board?
Yeah.
Is that an accurate picture,
I mean, it's a picture of it.
as you recall it?
As I recall it, yes.
I move exhibit 479 into evidence.
You should hear her when she's talking to the detectives in this stupid, scared trauma voice about this graffito on the bathroom wall that had her number and then fuck me at this number sort of thing, you know. She goes, oh, there was this, they put my number on the wall, and then there was some writing as well. And the detective's like, what was the writing? And she's like, the writing was a really bad word, and then me. What did it say, Ezra? It said F and then me. The detective's like, well, that wasn't very nice of them, Ezra. Just unbelievable. It was such a feeble attempt as well, you know. And yes, we can look at Jodi Arias and see through all that shit as well. Like it's you know, transparent plain glass window. Plate glass. Plain plate glass window. But at least she had a bit of style. And I do believe she had some actual psychopathic intelligence. This Ezra girl's just a douchebag. You know, any adult listening to her is like, this is bullshit. It's a shame that Jason he's almost like Peter Pan in a way, isn't he? Living in Neverland. Neverland.
Any objection?
No.
All right, exhibit 479 will be received.
And without putting it on the screen, it said the words "fuck me" and then the number you knew to be associated with the defendant, correct?
With her calling app.
Okay, so that was a number that maybe wasn't her phone, but it was an app that she had.
She had an app on her iPhone, yes, her iPod.
I'm sorry, that exhibit number is 479,
Yes.
so it's not part of 465?
No.
Okay, thank you.
That's a good point, Veronica. Probably, you know, all of the peers that this guy has that are the same age of him take the piss out of him, you know. They make fun of him and they make him carry all the bags. So he has to go and hang with these children at Racy's Coffee Lounge.
May. And just how long are you going to go yet with direct?
That's going to be a while still.
Okay, I think this is a good time to take a restroom break.
Yeah, look at this, guys. We need another 12 likes, 12 big thumbs, 12 big thumbs, and we can do it right now. Actually, the number's gone up. We need 15. 15 big thumbs right now to get our 100% rating. We haven't had less than 100% rating in months. So let's put it up. Big thumbs up. Hit the like button. That would be great. Thank you very much.
We'll recess for how much time is? We'll give you 10 minutes. All right. And I was just asked the bailiff, how much time do you think the jury would need?
10 minutes.
10 enough time? Okay, so 10 minutes. We'll be in recess until 3:42 on that clock.
I'm going to show you what's marked as Exhibit 677. And without talking about the contents, I'll just have you look and see if you recognize what is on the front.
Yes.
And then if you could look and see if you recognize what is on the back.
Yes.
And I'm going to ask you some follow-up questions about Exhibit 677. Without talking about the content, I'll just ask you straight out. Is that a letter that you received?
Yes, that is the letter I received.
And who gave you that letter?
So that was written by Jenna.
Jenna Van de Zand?
Yes.
So Alex's roommate, and when she gave the letter to you, were
Alex's
you-
girlfriend.
I'm sorry, your roommate, Alex's girlfriend,
And that would be
Alexander.
Alex Zink.
correct?
Okay.
And when you received this letter, did you jot some things down on the back?
That was like my rough outline of the timeline.
So you've already refreshed your recollection with a timeline of events as it relates to different time periods related to this case, correct?
This was before the previous one I viewed, but yeah, this was like my rough understanding because I was asking questions about it.
Now, if you recall, what were you doing when this letter was given to you?
I was asleep.
And what caused you to be asleep?
I was drunk.
You were drunk?
Yes.
And do you remember what general time frame this was?
Probably pretty late at night. We had come home from the bar, me and Jenna.
Okay. And what date or part of month, if you recall?
I can't really speculate. I can't remember exactly when. It was very close to
Alex's death?
Alex's death, yes.
So if Alex died on the 22nd of March 2018, would it have been a couple days before that?
Whenever the phone call between me and
Okay, so there was a phone call that led to this letter.
yeah, I hung up. I didn't want to talk anymore. And
Who was the phone call between you and who?
it was between me and Ezra. And then after I hung up, she called Jenna and talked with Jenna.
Okay. And so late at night, you were drunk. I'm sorry, did you say the defendant called you or you called her?
I can't recall who called whom, but yeah,
You ended up hanging up?
I ended up hanging up because I was just sick of it.
Hello, Pinto. Good to see you, my friend.
When you say sick of it, what do you, just briefly, what are you referring to as it?
Well, I found out more information at the bar. Me and Jenna had,
Without knowing, I'm sorry, without going into the content of what you were told at the bar, you found out some new information. Was that about Alex Woodworth and the defendant?
I found out more, yes.
Was it information that was about their relationship?
I believe so.
And was it recent in time to the time you received the letter?
The time I received the letter was in the morning. I think Jenna had written it because Ezra had asked her to wake me, but she said I wasn't going to wake him.
Okay.
I sustained with personal knowledge, I assume is.
So did you end up talking to the defendant about this letter?
To Ms. McCandless? Yes.
And do you remember, did you give this letter to her or just talk to her about it?
I think I gave it to her. That was the copy that was intended for me, I believe.
The copy of the letter was intended for you?
Yeah, Ms. Van Zandt, I believe, wrote 2 copies of that letter.
Okay. And did you,
I object unless he has personal knowledge of that.
Okay, sustained on personal knowledge.
did you talk to the defendant about the letter?
Yes, I did.
Now I want to skip ahead to March 22nd, 2018, the date of Alex Woodworth's death. Do you remember where you were that morning?
I woke up and went to do laundry. So I was between the laundromat that burned down over on Water Street.
In Eau
It
Claire.
wasn't burned down at the time, but the laundromat in Racy's, I was going back and forth.
Did you talk to the defendant that morning by phone or text?
Yeah, we had talked.
And did the defendant tell you whether or not she was coming to Eau Claire that day?
No, she hadn't mentioned anything.
Did she tell you that she was in Stanley?
I believe she was at Joe's, yes.
Okay. And Joe's would be Joe Carlin, who lives in Stanley?
Yes.
When you would talk to the defendant and she would be coming into town, would she typically tell you what her plan was?
I mean, usually she'd let me know, so we'd meet up and talk and make sure, just like a wellness check, make sure she's doing good.
So you were going back and forth between the dry cleaner and Racy's. Did the defendant eventually show up at Racy's?
Yeah, I thought I was off because she wasn't supposed to be driving.
And let me just, what time approximately was that, if you recall?
I honestly don't recall.
Morning time?
It was morning.
Do you remember where you were when you first saw the defendant?
I was sitting on the bench, I believe with Maxwell and a few of the other regulars.
The bench outside?
The bench outside Racy's, yes.
Did you have, without getting into the content, any conversation with the defendant?
Very brief. We might have passed a couple idle words, but not much. I was more confused than I was like.
Did the defendant and you eventually go into Racy's? Maybe not together, but.
Not together. I mean,
And did the defendant eventually leave with Max to go somewhere?
I saw them leave together. I was preoccupied with my laundry. I was like, well, I got to bike back to the laundromat, pick up my laundry, switch it over. And she said she was going to go trade some paintings. But I was like, oh, okay.
Did you notice anything about the defendant's demeanor that caused you concern?
She was a little fired up.
Now, by this point, you had known the defendant for many months, correct?
Yeah.
Were you able to pick up on nonverbal cues?
Yeah.
With her?
I'm very empathetic, so I feel things.
Did you notice anything specific about her eyes?
There was intentions in them, like.
I feel things. Well, yeah, but not the right ones. I mean, you don't feel all of the lies and deception and manipulation and this young girl taking advantage of you to like taking you to the cleaners. Yeah, you've got this house, haven't you? Yeah, you do. You have this house. So I'll move in and, start that job process. Yeah, it's a process. And if, it'll be way easier. I mean, I could do it from my car, because I'm determined. But, if I were living here, that'd be great. And you have this house, don't you? So I could live here, couldn't I?
I think she was angry about the way people were treating her at the coffee shop.
Now, Judge, I'm going to object to his
Well,
opinion.
thank you, KJD. I like your logo. Your logo is fantastic, KJD.
About how Ms. McCandless felt. He can relate what she said, but otherwise this is purely speculation.
Well, I'm going to overrule on this. I think we've covered this. He can describe his observations. So let's stick to what Mr. Mengel observed.
Mr. Mengel, you said you used the term fired up. Did that impression of the defendant come from what you observed in her expression and her eyes?
Yeah, I mean, like throughout our relationship, like there were times when she just would.
It seemed like she was fired up.
Yeah, like it didn't always mean negatively though. She just like had,
Okay. Did you have a conversation recent to that date, March 22nd, 2018, about journals that the defendant was writing?
Yeah, she was talking this. She was seeking help and for her mental health
And did she tell you that she was journaling?
Yes.
Did she tell you what she was going to do with those journals?
She had mentioned wanting to get her voice back and giving them possibly to the two, John Hansen and Alexander.
Yeah, her mental health issues. She keeps going on about that in her police interrogation. Her mental health issues are anxiety and depression. And of course, both those things are very real for many people. They're to be taken very seriously. But for Ezra, it's different. For Ezra, it goes a little bit more like this. I'm really frustrated that people aren't buying my lies, and I really need to get my own way. And all the things I want instant gratification without having to undergo any hardship or strain of my own. And if I can't do those things, I get anxious. And if I get anxious, I get depressed. And then I can use those issues as new tools to do what was just mentioned above.
Under Woodworth.
Do you remember having a conversation on Instagram with the defendant about?
Yeah, people bond about anxiety and depression, don't they? Couples get together on that. They're like, hey, oh, you're anxious and depressed? Oh, that's great. Me too. Hey, what's your favorite thing about rainy days? And the other person's like, not being able to go outside.
About journals
Yes.
and about her going and talking to.
Carrie Brooke. Can we get a trumpet sound? We need a trumpet sound effect. Carrie Brooke has just arrived, everybody. Next time, Carrie Brooke, please make a fashionably late entrance again, and I will prepare a trumpet sound effect. A full horn section will play in your honor. Welcome, Carrie. Welcome.
Alex,
I believe, yeah, Alex.
Your Honor, if I may approach.
You may.
Oh, shit. There's Ezra's mom and dad. Let's zoom in. Wow. It's Casey Anthony again, isn't it? She could play her in the film.
I'm showing you what's marked as Exhibit 465. Have you seen that document before?
Yeah, I'm privy to this.
And is that a conversation you had between, with the defendant?
Yes.
And is that Instagram?
This is Instagram, yes.
And having reviewed that already, is that an accurate copy of the conversation as you recall it?
It's hard to read because it's the format of it is different, but it's the conversation we had.
Okay, so the content is.
The content is there. Yeah.
I would move Exhibit 465 into evidence and ask to be published to the jury.
Any objection?
I previously noted a minor, but no.
All right, preserve for the record. And Exhibit 465 will be received and you may publish.
All right, Counselor, are you starting with page 983 then? Where it says 983 on the top? Okay.
So I'm showing you Exhibit 465. And you mentioned that the format is off because the messages go backwards in time. Is that right?
Backwards and upwards, yes.
So the beginning of this conversation would actually start at the bottom of the last page. Is that your understanding?
Yeah, however it was printed, it would start at whatever page and work forward.
Okay.
This is going to be hard with my dyslexia, but
Okay.
I'll wing it.
We'll work through it. I've got pages, let me just show you. It's pages 975.
I'll wing it. It's just the whole feeling of this guy in court is like, oh, I'll wing it. I mean, for me, there's no distinction between how he speaks to people at the coffee house and the courthouse. I mean, it's the same thing. He doesn't have any, like, okay, we're in an official capacity here, and we're going to take the, just have a courtroom manner. He has no courtroom manner, right?
To 983, would you agree?
What's that?
Pages on the top right corner, pages 975, 76, 77, all the way up to 983.
Roger.
Do you would agree? Okay. So I'm going to start by showing
Hey, Carrie, you've missed the first 87 Rogers. I think there's been more, to be honest. 187?
You the message on page number 983 of Exhibit 465. And I'll zoom in a bit here.
Okay.
Are you familiar with what UTC means?
With what UTC?
In terms of time?
Yeah, I believe someone said it was a global time.
Okay, so is it your understanding that that's not central time?
No, I think that's different than like what we would consider standard central time.
And the date on these messages is March 12th, 2018. Do you see that?
Yes, I see that.
Okay. Now I'm going to start with the first message on the bottom, which is March 12th, 2018 at 12:41:04 UTC time. Do you see that?
Yes.
And now I'm going to go down to the text, which says, or first of all, the conversations, you're familiar with your Instagram tagline as well as the defendant's, correct?
Correct.
And this one that you're viewing is the author is the defendant, correct?
Yes.
And it says, "That sounds lovely." Is that right?
Yes, that's correct.
And then I'm going to go up to the next message. The author is again the defendant, correct?
Yes.
And the recipients are both, it lists the defendant as well as you, correct?
Correct.
So the text is a message from the defendant to you that says what?
Not I much to distract.
And then moving to the next message, again, it's authored by, this one's by you to the defendant, correct?
That's for me, yes.
And it says, yeah, Britt ended up at the trap, correct?
Yes.
The next message, actually, I'm going to skip ahead to a few above. The author, I'm sorry, you're looking at orange. No, thank you. The author is the defendant, and you are one of the recipients, correct?
Yes.
And the message says, from the defendant to you, says, "Tuesday, I plan on coming to town and doing an errand before I meet up with you," correct?
Correct.
Now I'm going to move to page 982. But first of all, on the top of page 983, the recipients listed are the defendant and you, correct?
Yes.
And then the bottom of page 982 is authored by the defendant, and it says, "I mean, you could honestly be in the car while I do it," correct? Off the screen again.
That was way off the screen, yeah.
There we go.
That was by who's the, that was by her, yes.
So the author is the defendant, you're the recipient. It says, "I mean, you could honestly be in the car while I do it," correct?
Correct.
And she said again, the next message, "wouldn't mind," correct?
I believe that's, well, is that the sender or the receiver?
So the author is the defendant,
Yes, that's
correct?
her.
And she says, "wouldn't mind," correct?
Correct.
The next one is authored by you to the defendant, correct?
Mhm. Yes,
And it says, "what errand?" Is that right?
that's correct.
The next one is again by you.
Hey, thanks so much for the super sticker, Laura. Good to see you. We launched our Judge Everett merch today. We're going to be getting right on the True Crime Metrix logo merch tomorrow. That's our mission for the day.
To the defendant, is that right?
Yes, that's from me.
And the text is, "the stuff from Racy's or Robin thing, question mark," correct?
Correct.
The next message is the defendant to you, and the text says, "Alex got me a Little Prince book. I want to give it back and tell him off a little, then walk away before he has a chance to talk, then grab the Racy stuff," correct?
And thanks so much, Mr. Pinto, baby. Hey, I think we might be able to get through this direct testimony. There's some, so it ends about there. What have we got? Another, yeah, we should be able to at least finish this today. But it's 5:44 a.m. guys. But just last plug, if anyone wants to support the channel this month, just a reminder that the best place to do that is at buymeacoffee.com/true crime metrics. That's the best place for October. Definitely for October. November we should come back to the YouTube and support the channel that way. But for this month, the best way to support the channel is buymeacoffee.com/true crime metrics. Thank you so much, guys. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Let's wrap this up. And then tomorrow, cross-examination. Mr. Mengel in the hot seat. It's a lot different. I mean, he's not different. But the defense counsel for Ezra McCandless really does kind of have a go at him a bit. This is all quite polite, even though the prosecutor is getting quite frustrated with Mr. Mengel's inability to answer any question to a satisfactory level. It's still quite cordial, right? It's polite and kind and everything, but the defense counsel and Mr. Mengel clearly do not like each other, and it shows.
Correct.
The next message is authored by the defendant. You're one of the recipients, correct?
Correct.
And it says, and be done with that negativity, correct?
Correct.
The next message is authored by you.
Yep.
Sent to the defendant, and the text is, thought you burned all that stuff, correct?
Correct.
So then the message on top here, the recipients are you as well as the defendant, correct?
Correct.
Then moving to the bottom of page 981, the author is the defendant, correct?
Correct.
And the text is, found the little prince last night, correct?
Correct.
The next message is authored by the defendant, sent to you, with the text being, I burned hope against hope, correct?
Correct.
And is that a book?
I believe that was a book, yes.
The next message, authored by the defendant, sent to you, says, kind of want my last word, correct?
Correct.
The next message, authored by you to the defendant.
Yeah, she might give them back, the possessions of her ex, but they'd be broken, or bits would be missing, or like she'll give a shampoo bottle back, and it'll be like, well, what am I supposed to do with that? There's nothing in it.
Says, why did he give you a kid's book, correct?
Correct.
The next message, authored by the defendant to you, said he barely had the respect to talk to you. I want to give him one last word. He gave me it because I love foxes and the movie, correct?
Correct.
The next message, authored by the defendant, sent to you, is, it's one of my favorites because of animation styles, correct?
Correct.
The next message, authored by the defendant to you, is, but I don't want that thing in my house, correct?
Correct.
And the top of this page, the recipients for the next message are, that's going to be,
Us both again.
both of you are listed, correct?
Correct.
And then if we look at the bottom of page 980, the author is listed as you, correct?
Correct.
And the text says, when did he do that, correct?
Yes.
The next message is authored by you, sent to the defendant with the text, I remember that in our room, correct?
Correct.
Are you referring to the book?
The Little Prince book, yes.
So that was in your apartment?
Yeah, it was at our apartment at some point.
And the next message, authored by you, sent to the defendant, said blue cover, correct?
Correct.
The next message, authored by the defendant, sent to you, said he gave it to me a bit after Christmas, said it was his way of being happy to have a new friend, correct?
Correct.
The next message, sent by the defendant to you, said yup, correct?
Yes.
The next message, sent by you to the defendant says stars, correct?
Correct. They're out of order in a way where she's referring to, I said blue, she said, yep, stars, yep. You know,
So
like
the conversation is overlapping. a bit?
conversation is kind of overlapping, but it's talking about the book.
The next message, at least on this sheet, author, the defendant, to you, says, I want to get rid that thing, it just pisses me off, correct?
Correct.
The next message has both of you listed as recipients, and we'll move to the bottom of page 979. The author is listed as the defendant, correct?
Yes.
And it says, I bet it was his actual way of being like, oh, I'm Ezra's friend. I know they like this, and it will make them think I'm actually not trash, correct?
Correct.
The next message, authored by the defendant to you, said, everything is all garbage to me now, correct?
Correct.
The next message, authored by the defendant to you, says, just trash, correct?
Correct.
The next message, authored by the defendant to you, says, useless paper and trash, correct?
Correct.
The next message, authored by you to the defendant,
Yes.
says, well, I don't have to be there for all this, correct?
Correct.
The next message, authored by the defendant to you, says, kind of want you to be, but that's selfish, AHA, correct?
Correct.
The next message, authored by you to the defendant, says, I don't want anything to do with him, correct?
Correct.
And the last message on the top of this page is it's recipients, both you and the defendant, correct?
Correct.
And going to the bottom of the next page.
Yeah, in many ways, this trial's like, what are we even doing here? I think the judge feels that as well. He's like, she's guilty. Life. Okay, parole. Well, when you're 80. Yeah, when you're 80, maybe. Okay. But that's it. And no promises.
978. The author is the defendant, correct? Off the
Yes.
screen again.
Yeah, it's off the screen.
Yes, the author is the defendant, correct?
Correct.
And it says, I can do it alone, correct?
Correct.
The next message
AHA, correct? Or is it HAAH?
is the defendant, you.
Yeah.
The next message, authored by you. This is you are listed as the recipient is you. That's not helping either, you know. He's quite young. He certainly looks quite young, this attorney, doesn't he? But he's not really holding the room. Can you imagine what Christopher DeCoste would do with this content? Mr. Mengel, the next message was authored by you, wasn't it? There's 100 people in this courtroom looking at the message authored by you.
Yeah.
To the defendant, and it says, I cleaned him up, correct?
Correct.
The next message is the defendant to you, stating, I'm afraid I might punch him, though, if he gives me a look, correct?
Correct.
The next message,
I guess this is from the day of the murder, and they're showing Ezra's state of mind, right? And now she said he might punch him. You know, she wasn't afraid of this evil rapist philosopher, you know. This Kierkegaard reading, you know.
says, it's authored by you to the defendant when he pretended to off himself, correct?
Correct.
Was that in reference to when you bandaged his arm?
Yeah.
And we're talking, all these messages are talking to Alex, as you understand, talking about Alex Woodworth, correct?
Yes.
The next message from you to the defendant says, my kindness is not weakness, correct?
Correct.
The next message from you to the defendant says, when someone hurts me badly, I'm done, correct?
Correct.
The next message from the defendant to you says, to be honest, I might punch him in the face if he DOSE his sarcastic, your dumb voice, correct?
Correct.
The next message says, authored by the defendant, sent to you. We'll move to the bottom of page 977. It says, I just want to give it back, say, stay out of my life, and tell him how much I regret meeting him, correct?
Correct.
And that was the defendant to you?
Yes.
The next message, authored by the defendant, sent to you, says, then walk away and never see his face again, correct?
Correct.
The next message by the defendant to you says, I'll stay composed, correct?
Correct.
The next message, authored by you to the defendant, says he's going to want to talk, correct?
Correct.
The next message sent by you to the defendant says, or laugh at you, or IDK, correct?
Correct.
The next message sent by the defendant to
How
you
much more of this guy?
says, you know my sass when I'm real mad, correct?
Correct.
I've had enough of those. But thank you so much, Anne B, for the I was going to say texts then, for the coffees, for the text coffees. The next coffee sent by Anne was authored by you. Man, that was rough. I hope someone told this attorney, like, listen, buddy, don't do that. You lose everybody in the room. This monotonous thing. You need to build.
Did the defendant send you
I think he's just frustrated himself because he's had to be talking to Jason for like, what, an hour and a half more?
a copy of her journals?
Yes, she sent me.
Was that by electronic sending?
I believe she sent it to my Gmail.
Okay. Do you remember when that was in relation to Alex's death?
It was the first or the second. There were two, I believe. Two journals.
Let's start with the first. When did she send that, if you recall?
I wouldn't know an exact date, but it was a couple days before. I'm assuming like a week, maybe.
Within a week of Alex's death?
I'd have to refresh my memory on.
Is that your best recollection?
That's my best recollection.
What about the second journal? Do you remember when she sent that to you?
I believe it was like the night or so before me and Julia had both received it the same night.
Judge, I object to him saying unless Ms. McCandless told him she already sent to
And remember to leave a like on the video, guys, whether you're on the way in, on the way out, coming or going. Thumbs up, leave a like on the video.
Julia Post unless it's fine, but otherwise, I don't know if he has personal knowledge.
Sustained. Again, your microphone is not on.
Oh.
So I don't know if everybody heard that objection, but again, this is a personal knowledge objection. And so just again, what you know personally.
Did the defendant tell you if she sent the journals electronically to anyone else?
Yes,
Who did she say she sent the journals to?
to Julia.
Is that her friend Julia Post?
Yes.
Once, did you eventually, on March 22nd, 2018, go looking for the defendant?
The day of
The day that you saw her at Racy's?
yes.
The day of the what, Jason? The day of the brutal, needless, violent homicide? Yes, that day, Jason.
Why did you go looking for the defendant?
Something did not seem right.
Where did you go initially, if you recall?
Initially, I started just biking around trying to think like, well, maybe she went to John's house, but I realized it was pretty far out in the road.
Yeah, she disappeared, and I thought, where could she be? So I listed all the people that she'd cheated on me with, went through them in my mind, and then did a tour.
Which are pretty nasty. So I thought I'll go to Alex's first and then go out of town afterwards.
And when you went to Alex's, what did you see from the outside?
I saw her car idling in his driveway.
Was there anybody in the car?
Negative.
But obviously the keys were inside if it was idling.
Yeah, I was idling.
What did you do?
Well, I sat across at the, there's like a school across the way. I sat there, parked my bike, because I just was like, well, everything's probably fine. Everything's probably fine. You know, I wasn't sure for both parties involved that they should be alone.
Did you eventually go in the car and take the keys out?
I went in the car and turned the car off, yes. At that time, I noticed that note that was on the passenger seat.
I'm sorry, he dropped his voice and I couldn't hear him.
At that time, I noticed the note that he had showed me earlier on the passenger seat.
Was that the note from Jenna?
Yes.
Do you know how that note got there?
I had given it to Ezra, I believe.
Was there anybody else in or around the car aside from you in that area?
No, I looked around. I didn't see anybody. That was about it. You know, I just felt something was not right because it.
And did you knock on the door to the house?
Not initially. I waited for quite a while. I was like, maybe everything's fine. They'll just come out. But after about 40 minutes or so, I just had an uneasy feeling. So I approached the door and my cell phone went off and I had a very noticeable ringtone. I heard her call down, just let him help you. Her recognizing my phone. So I was like, oh God, he's hurting himself again. So I just ran up the stairs.
And when you heard someone say, just let him help you, were you referring to the defendant?
No, yeah.
That's the person who said that?
Ezra, it was Ezra's voice, yes.
So you went into the house?
Yes, I was in the house.
You went upstairs?
Yes.
Did you go into a room?
Yeah, on the right-hand side, it was his bedroom.
That was Alex's room?
I believe so.
Do you remember if the door was open or closed when you went upstairs?
Slightly ajar.
Yeah, no problem, Monica. But I just wish I knew that if there was anything good coming up. I mean, we're almost at the end, but I think we're pretty much done with this guy's direct testimony.
Who was inside?
Ezra and Alexander.
And for these,
And the prosecutors really rushing through now. Everyone in the courtroom is just bored of this guy. It's quite funny because in his interrogation, well, it's an interview. He's not being interrogated. He's there to give the police some information, but you know, it's about 3 hours long and he goes off on these wild tangents. And of course, there isn't a judge there to admonish him and remind him that he shouldn't expand on ideas. So it's just left to the detectives to have to pretty politely move the conversation forward when it gets into these, like when he starts talking about the inner workings of Dungeons and Dragons for 45 minutes. What was it again? I can't even remember. You roll the dice and it's a game of chance and it's role playing with your friends and you draw a map and then someone is hosting the environment and you create a cleric and a bard. What the fuck was that? Poker or darts. That's all that you should be doing. Trivial Pursuit. I don't know. There's plenty of choice. We don't need to invent a complicated Dungeon Dragon game. Or tell the cops about it. But at the end of his interrogation video, they're trying to get him out of the room. They're saying, well, I'm done here. I'm done here. You done here? And the other cop's like, yeah, I think we got everything we need. And Jason just finds a way every time to keep them in the room, right? He's one of these guys. And at the very, very end, when the cops are like putting on their jackets and standing up, Jason's still sat down talking, right? They're actually getting up to go, the cops. Hand is on the door handle, waiting for that polite moment to actually turn it. So it doesn't look like you're just walking off, which is exactly what they want to do. Jason finally gets up and says, so did I bore you guys? And they both go, no, and thank you for your service to our country. Oh, he really is one of these guys, isn't he? And more. There's a lot to Jason Mengel. We may never know everything, but I think we can agree that we already know more than enough.
These purposes, when we say Alex or Alexander, we're talking about Woodworth, right?
Woodworth, Roger. Yes.
Where was Alex located in the room, if you recall?
I believe he was closer to the window and she was closer to the door.
Were they standing or sitting, if you remember?
Sitting on the bed.
Did you ask if everyone was all right?
Yeah, I was very, like, you guys scared the shit out of me. You know, I was like, I was worried, you know.
Did the defendant say she was all right?
They both, you know, there had been, when I was outside and I had heard the just let him help you, there was bickering going on. So I was under the impression that.
The funny thing is that she didn't say, just let him help you. She said, he helped you, apparently. But we heard that from her. But I did believe her on that occasion, and it would make more sense. Let him help you. Hearing that through a door when there's already something strange going on. Let him help you. Let him help you. That would be freaky. That is a weird, you know.
Something, she wasn't being allowed to leave, so I was scared for him.
I know, right? Carrie, you've just summed up this guy's whole thing in this reference to him explaining D&D, Dungeons and Dragons. And there's a board. No. It's a map. We draw a map. No, a paper. He does this with everything.
I was scared for her, but they seemed like oddly calm.
When you got up there, did the defendant say he won't let me leave?
No, she didn't say anything like that.
Did she say she wanted to leave?
No.
Did she say help me, Jason?
Negative.
Did she say he's trying to hurt me?
No.
Negative, Roger.
No.
Did you suggest that they go somewhere else to talk?
Yeah, I told them I would wait outside and then that they should probably go to a venue of some sort to have such delicate conversations.
Did the police arrive?
Yes, the police arrived.
Did you speak with them?
I spoke with a couple cops at the time.
Did, when the police arrived, were you exiting the house?
I think I was just walking out because I told them if anything awry was going to happen, they could make a noise. Like, you know, he had plenty of books, throw a book against the wall, you know, whatever, and I'll come back in.
Throw a book against the wall. He had plenty of books. Throw a book against the wall. In fact, use the Kierkegaard book. Break the wall down with Kierkegaard. Just blow a hole through the wall with one of your giant philosophy books. Man, wow. Yeah, just the sentences like this just seem completely normal to our friend Jason, don't they? Throw a book against the wall. Make a noise. Sound the alarm.
You said that to
He has plenty of books. Throw one against the wall.
the defendant and Alex?
To both of them, both parties. But they wanted to continue the conversation.
Did the defendant and Alex eventually come outside as well?
After I spoke with law enforcement, about the time law enforcement went to enter the house, they were both exiting.
Where did the defendant go when she exited the house?
When she exited the house, I think she came over to the driver's side of her car, I believe.
And where did Alex eventually go when he came out of the house?
The passenger side.
Did law enforcement talk with them as well?
They talked with them.
Did law enforcement eventually leave?
Yes.
And did the defendant and Alex eventually leave?
Yeah, we had a conversation and they both left.
What was your impression from that conversation as to where they were going?
Well, we had all talked a little bit and said, you know, it probably makes sense to go someplace public. I mean, so they'd agreed to go to a coffee shop. It sounded like they didn't want to air their dirty laundry at like Racy's, so they were going to go someplace else. So I understood that. I was like, yeah, that's probably a tender place to go.
Did you see them leave?
I saw them drive away.
In the defendant's car?
What?
Were they leaving in the defendant's car?
Yes.
And who was driving, if you remember?
Ezra was driving at that time.
Alex was in the front passenger seat.
Yes.
Did you eventually return to Racy's?
Yeah, I went back to Racy's.
Did you eventually send some messages via Instagram to the defendant?
Yeah, I still had an uneasy feeling, so I was bumming around quite a bit.
Did the defendant respond to any of those messages?
Without Wi-Fi, she wasn't able to respond, I'm assuming, because her phone needed Wi-Fi to send messages back.
So you didn't receive any messages in response?
It didn't show like seen or anything.
Did you eventually get on your bike and go looking for Alex and the defendant?
Yeah, I started to freak out when me and Joe had talked about her. She was supposed to get the.
No, I object.
Veronica, I always thought Charlie Foxtrot meant certainly fine. I could be wrong. I feel like I've been robbed of my reality.
That's okay. I'll just ask you questions about what you saw and what you know not from other people. So did you then go to eventually end up at the Eau Claire Police Department
Yes.
and talk to some officers?
Yes.
Did you eventually find out that the defendant had been located?
Eventually, I talked to an officer from Dunn County.
Had you been in the defendant's vehicle in the days prior to Alex's death?
Yes.
Do you remember ever seeing a knife?
I don't recall there being a knife in the center console. I had given her it was a National Guard one with a broken clasp at one point. I had given her, she had, I think my Alexander Zink had given her one at one
It was thoughtful, wasn't it? Here, here's a knife with a broken clasp.
point too, but
the knife that you gave her, was it labeled somehow?
labeled.
Yeah, did it have any markings on it that were just distinguishable? You said Wisconsin National Guard, was it?
Yeah, I think on the blade it would have said Wisconsin Army National Guard or something to that.
Do you remember in the days leading up to, you said you were in the defendant's vehicle. Do you remember looking for a knife in the vehicle?
Yeah, at one point she used to always have one in the center console, and I forget what I needed to cut. What I was going to cut, I think I had a shoelace that broke or something. I was going to cut it off and retie it, and I couldn't find a knife.
I think you said that was within a few days prior to March 22nd, 2018?
Yes.
You looked, but you couldn't find a knife?
Yeah, the one that I had given her had usually resided inside that.
Your Honor, may I approach? You may. I'm going to show you what's marked as Exhibit 233. Is that the knife that you gave her?
Negative.
Is that a knife that you have ever seen in the defendant's vehicle?
No, I've never seen that one.
And just so the jury can understand that, there's some markings that says EMT on that knife, correct?
Yes.
I'm going to show you, Madam Clerk, if I could have the screen with the computer. I'm showing you what's marked as Exhibit 135. It's already been received into evidence. Is that the knife, or at least consistent with the knife that you gave the defendant?
Yeah, I mean, it has the broken clasp for it hooked to your belt, so I'm assuming it's probably the same knife. Oh, sorry. It has the same where the 3 Allen parts are. That's where the clasp they used to be, where it would hook onto my belt. I'm assuming that's where the other one was broken. So.
And there's a mark.
So yeah, it's the same fucking knife then.
It looks like it says Wisconsin. Is that?
Well, this one has 3 Allen bolts, and my belt, which was military issue, it would loop. There was a loop and a clasp And the clasp would loop onto the military issue belt. This guy, what is wrong with him?
Is that consistent with the knife you gave her that says Wisconsin National Guard?
Yeah.
Now, between the time that the defendant moved out of your apartment in February of 2018 and up to March 22nd, 2018, the date of Alex Woodworth's death, did you continue to have regular contact with the defendant?
Yes. Yeah.
How frequently would you communicate with the defendant?
Pretty often, like I would say daily. We were still friends. I still worried about her.
Did you continue, before you talked about I love yous and you are valued and things like that, did you continue to say those things to each other?
Of course, yeah. She was still very important. People are important to me.
Even while broken up, did you?
People are important to me.
People are important to me. Try sorting yourself out a bit, okay? Like, you need to get in the real world, Jason. Never go to Racy Delane's again, okay? Leave Eau Claire. Just leave it all behind. Go to Mexico. Start a new life in Mexico.
Even while broken up, did you continue to engage in a sexual relationship during that same time period with the defendant?
There were moments of weakness, yes.
Were there messages, if you recall, where the defendant expressed her feelings for you?
Yes.
Did she tell you that she loved you?
Yes.
Did she tell you that she missed you?
Yes.
Did she tell you how much it hurt to be without you?
Yes.
Did she
ask you to get her a hotel, or if she could move back in and you pay all the rent?
tell you how much she wanted to be with you?
Yes.
Did she ever talk about a future together with you?
Yeah.
Did she ever play on your fear and desire and, work you? Did she do any of those things?
Nothing further, thank you.
All right. Who's going to do cross-examination? Ms. Vishny, I know you're probably all set to go. How long do you believe cross-examination would take?
I think we should start cross-examination tomorrow morning.
Okay, well, I'm thinking the same thing. I know I have some jurors that have to be somewhere. And if we started now, we wouldn't finish this witness in time.
There's no way.
So, all right, well, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to recess tomorrow. And Mr. Mengel, you'll have to come back tomorrow morning. We are going to begin testimony at 8:30 a.m. So just, again, you've all been great in being on time. I just want to remind you, we're going to begin.
Everybody know that green sweater, that green, lumpy, big, baggy sweater that's three sizes too big for her under that little tiny pink jacket? That is Jason's. It's Jason's, which she has because she had it at the point of arrest, because she was, when Jason came down to the trauma center after Alex, the philosophy professor, attacked her and ran away, wink, wink, and Ezra was in the trauma center, big hero Jason came down there and gave her a sweater, right? When she was arrested, it was still in her possession. So I guess it just went into her property or to her family or whatever. But she's wearing it now as a message to say, hey, Jason, see the sweater I'm wearing? It's yours. And you remember when you wore it last time, Jason, when you were being a hero, like I really need you to do for me now because I'm on trial for my fucking life. Everything this girl does, man. Everything this girl does.
Testimony at 8:30 a.m. So just, again, you've all
and thanks so much, April Loves Golf. It's great to have you here as well. It always is, April. Always is.
great in being on time. And I just want to remind you of the instruction that I read yesterday. I think I'll read it every other day, but I just want to remind you to not listen to anything about this case. No individuals, no media, no radio, TV, internet, social media. Do not allow yourselves to be exposed to any information about this case. And don't discuss the case with anyone, even amongst other jurors, until this case is finally given to you and you've heard all of the evidence and been instructed by the court. Do not do any research independently into the public records involving any of the parties. Do not visit any scenes. And that's a brief summary. And everybody has been instructed on that. I'll give you the formal instruction.
Absolutely, Veronica. If you walk into Racy Delane's and say, hey, this is all right, I might make this my home. Within a week, you'll have slept with 15 people.
In tomorrow, but I'm not going to make you go through that at this point. So, okay, all rise. All right. Mr. Mengel, you understand that, again, you are under subpoena, as I understand it.
Oh,
and
whoa. Okay, we are closing, guys. Man, I got to get some sleep. It is 6:20 a.m. and the roosters are crowing. Many thanks to everybody in the chat and the wonderful support, the wonderful messages. Carrie Brooke, we will be finding a trumpet sound to play in your honor the next time you arrive. Wonderful to have you here, as always, Carrie. And Anne, thanks so much for the coffees. That was just wonderful of you, Anne. Yeah, everybody. Great show, great subject, guys. And we'll be back tomorrow with the cross-examination, which is a totally different vibe for Mr. Mengel. I think it's a little bit quicker, so we might be able to squeeze in the testimony of Jenna Van der Zand, wonderful name there, isn't it? Miss Van der Zand, where she really does not speak well of Jason at all. You know, he comes across as a bit of a dope, but you know, he seems to have a big heart. Jenna doesn't hold that opinion at all. She's like, yeah, he usually, we'll wait and see. We'll wait and see. Many of you will have already have seen it. KOK, how are you doing? So glad you're here, but we're closing down because it's 6:30 almost in the morning. But yeah, you should go back and watch the show because this subject is hilarious. This guy is funny. Oh man. Yeah, I enjoyed that one. So nice to spend some time in Wisconsin. Anyway, we will see you all later, folks. We do need a new sign-off. We'll keep referencing these damn Adelsons. Yeah, maybe we should reference Judge Everett. Who knows? We'll just say, take it easy. Okay? True Crime Metrix is saying good night all. Bye.